distance transport team. Wu Feng naturally had nothing to say. Xia Huanhuan went to the county town and handed the small truck to Wu Feng. All the travel procedures and letters of introduction were naturally handled. Recently, the only things that can be used are to send the winter coats processed by the textile factory to Beijing City and the Chinese medicine for the first medicine shop, which needs to be collected in Qingshui village and then transported to Beijing City. The types of medicinal materials in Qingshui village were not complete enough, so Xia Huanhuan added some commonly used types from the space. When the first medicine shop opened, Yang Qiushi, as the boss, looked at the antique wooden shelves in the medicine shop that were as high as the beams of the house. The names of Chinese medicines were engraved on the outside of each small drawer. When he opened them, he saw the processed medicinal materials lying quietly inside. The whole shop was filled with the familiar medicinal fragrance in his memory. He couldn't help but burst into tears with excitement. After more than 10 years, Yang's medicine shop finally came back to life. How could he not be excited? Xia Huanhuan came over with a smile to comfort him. Master, don't be too excited. There are 4 more medicine shops to be opened in the back. Yang Qiushi quickly raised his sleeves to wipe his tears and said, I'm not excited. You are wrong. Xia Huanhuan pursed her lips and smiled. Okay, I am wrong. However, from then on, Yang Qiushi would occasionally pull Xiaowen, Xiaowu, Beibei, and the triplets over to teach them to read medical books and memorize the names and properties of medicinal materials. However, the focus was still on the triplets, and he really trained the triplets as future heirs. Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei were fine. They had grown up, had good self-control, and could study obediently on time. The triplets were at the age of having fun, so how could they be willing to sit down and memorize? As a result, the triplets were sneaky when they entered the house, fearing that they would be caught by Grandpa Yang and taken to school. Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan did not stop them. Yang Qiushi's knowledge is there. The little ones may not know what is good or bad now, but they will definitely benefit a lot in the future. Moreover, Yang Qiushi did not force the triplets to study every day. Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan let the grandfather and grandchildren compete with each other. Rong Zhenbang and Shan Wanxue saw that their grandchildren were forced to study by Yang Qiushi, and they could not lose anyway, so they also joined the battle for the triplets. Seeing this, Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan quickly called the 3 elders over and held a serious meeting. They decided how long they could force the children to study every week. Within this time frame, they could fight for it. The rest of the time was also guaranteed for their playing time. Xia Huanhuan felt that children should still have a good childhood, and there was no point in working so hard to push them. Soon the final exams were over and the winter vacation was here. This time, Xia Huanhuan did not let Chenlu leave immediately, but asked her to stay at home for a few days and then go with her, Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru. Although Chenlu felt a little awkward to get along with her future parents-in-law so directly, she thought about how Yan Haoyan had been helping her parents with housework and changing gas, and was like half a son to them. She should get familiar with her future parents-in-law first, so she agreed. After living there for a few days, Zhou Qiuha asked Li Jie's eldest sister Li Zhaodi to look after the store for a while, and also asked Qin Qi to help look after it when she had nothing to do. Then she came to Jingshi and went to Guangzhou with Xia Huanhuan and others. This time, Yan Haoyan came to pick them up again. He first sent Xia Shuangshan, Lin Yiru, Xia Huanhuan, and Zhou Qiuha to the guest house, and then sent Chenlu home. Li Zhan had a temporary mission, so he didn't come. Xia Huanhuan didn't let the little kids at home come with him this time. Yan Haoyan and Chenlu hadn't seen each other for several months, and the look in their eyes when they looked at each other was a little hot. However, when there were only 2 people left in the car, Chenlu blushed and was at a loss. Yan Haoyan asked her how she did on the final exam, and Chenlu finally relaxed. When they arrived downstairs of Chenlu's house, Chenlu was about to get out of the car, but Yan Haoyan suddenly leaned over and gave her a quick kiss on the lips. Chenlu was startled, and her eyes widened. Yan Haoyan was also afraid that it would be bad for Chenlu if he was seen, so he just kissed her once and then let go, smiling and asked, "It's been a few months, have you missed me?" Chenlu covered her mouth, glared at him with a red face, and then whispered, "Of course." I do. Every day. Yan Haoyan felt sweet in his heart when he heard it and smiled. That's good. You go upstairs first. I'll settle my parents and Huan and come back tomorrow to see how to arrange a meeting between the two families. Chenlu knew that they were going to discuss engagement, so she nodded with a red face and said, Well, I'll go upstairs first. You drive carefully. When Chenlu went upstairs, Chenlu's mother first looked Chenlu up and down happily and then immediately asked Chenlu's father to start eating, smiling and saying, I haven't seen you for a few months. You've lost weight. Your father cooked pig's trotter soup. Drink a bowl quickly to warm yourself up. When Chenlu had almost finished eating, Chenlu's mother asked hesitantly, Lulu, the car downstairs just now. Was it driven by Haoyan? Chenlu nodded and said yes. Haoyan borrowed a jeep from the army to pick us up. Chenlu's mother heard the expression on her face, which was hard to describe. This is not their own car. How can they borrow it casually? What if his boss finds it strange? He will be scolded. You guys are really, a bus ticket is only 1 cent. Isn't it very convenient? Chenlu's mother said, sighing. Yan Haoyan is a good person, and he knows how to care for others, but he does things without considering the consequences. He is just a soldier. How can he borrow the army's car? What a bad influence. If his boss finds it strange and punishes him, then wouldn't it be their daughter who will be affected? Chenlu didn't know what her mother was thinking, so she smiled and said, Mom, don't worry. Haoyan's boss knew that Haoyan's parents were coming, so he agreed to let him borrow a car to come. Chenlu's mother gave up after hearing this. Chenlu said again, Mom, Haoyan said he would come again tomorrow to discuss how to arrange a meeting between you and your uncle and aunt to see how to deal with the engagement. Chenlu's mother nodded and said, I know. Don't say anything tomorrow, just let me and your dad talk. Chenlu was stunned for a moment. What were her parents going to say? They didn't let her interrupt? Xia Huan and her friends checked in at the guest house. After settling down, Xia Huan said she would take Zhou Qiuhe for a walk. Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru took a train for a day and a night, so they didn't go with them. Xia Huan did not take Zhou Qiuhe to any famous tourist spots, but went straight to the clothing wholesale market. Zhou Qiuhe looked at the wholesale vendors setting up stalls along the street and the various styles of clothing piled up like mountains, and was so shocked that she was speechless for a long time. Oh my God, Huan, I have never seen so many clothes at one time. Xia Huan said with a smile. It is no exaggeration to say that 80% of the clothes and shoes sold by the self-employed stall owners in the country are imported from here, and this market is only a small part of them. Zhou Qiuhe smacked her lips and said nervously, There are so many styles. Won't it be difficult to choose? Xia Huan said with a smile. It depends on the vision of the person who buys the goods. Everyone uses limited capital to get goods for turnover. If the style is not well chosen, it will be a loss for oneself if it cannot be sold at that time. In addition, it will take up your money, which cannot be circulated, and new goods cannot be obtained, which will be difficult to deal with later. Zhou Qiuhe nodded and said, I didn't expect that there are so many things to know in the clothing business. When she set up a stall in the county before, she got the goods directly from Xia Huan, and they were all styles prepared by Xia Huan, so she felt that the sales were quite smooth. Obviously, she was the last one to set up the stall, but she was always the first one to sell out and close the stall. Now that she thinks about it, it's not because she's lucky or something, it's purely because Xia Huan's selection of products is good. Xia Huan brought Zhou Qiuhe here this time, not to get the goods, but to take a look first, and then come to get the goods after a few days when Yan Haoyan and Chenlu's engagement is over. However, she still went to Lao Jin's stall and specially picked out 2 new sets of clothes for Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru. They're about to meet their mother-in-law, so at least they can't let others look down on them, right? Lao Jin had also prepared it a long time ago, and when he saw Xia Huan coming, he gave it to her directly. When the two returned to the guest house, Yan Haoyan was talking to Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru. Lin Yiru saw Xia Huan and hurriedly called out, Huan, you're back just in time. We were discussing which restaurant to have dinner with Qin's mother and where to hold our friend's engagement ceremony. Your father and I don't know anything, so come here and give your brother some advice. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "What else is there to discuss? We must choose the best hotel in Guangzhou, Baiyun Hotel." Baiyun Hotel officially opened in 1976. It is 34 stories high and was the tallest building in the country at that time. It is quite impressive. Her brother's engagement banquet must be held in the best place. "Don't worry about the money, I'll pay for it." Yan Haoyan smiled and said, "No matter what, it's not your turn to pay." "Don't worry, I have money. But won't it be too eye-catching?" Xia Huanhuan thought about it. Yan Haoyan's identity and profession were there, and it seemed that it was not good to be too ostentatious. Therefore, he suggested, "How about the Victory Hotel? It has a long history and is famous but not so conspicuous." Yan Haoyan nodded and said, "I have this one in my mind as a backup. Let's decide on this one for now. However, we have to discuss it with Chunlu's parents later. We respect their opinions." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Well, let's do it." The next day, Yan Haoyan went to Chunlu's house and made an appointment for the two families to meet. There was nothing to say about this. Chunlu's mother picked a cheap and good-morning tea shop. She didn't say much about the other things. It should be said openly when the two parties meet. Yan Haoyan agreed. A day later, it was the day for the two families to meet. Xia Huanhuan accompanied Xia Shuangshan, Lin Yuru, and Yan Haoyan to wait outside the tea house in advance. After a while, Chunlu came with her parents. This was the first time that Chunlu's parents met Xia Shuangshan, Lin Yuru, and Xia Huanhuan. Chunlu's mother originally thought that Yan Haoyan's hometown was in the countryside, so his parents and sister must also be from the countryside. Even if her sister was admitted to Beijing University later, she must have dressed like a country girl. But she didn't expect that the four people in front of her were not dressed in a rustic way at all. They were even more fashionable than her, a native of Guangzhou. However, Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru had wrinkles on their faces, and they were dark and thin, which showed the traces of years of farm work. On the contrary, Yan Haoyan's sister had a fair and beautiful face, and she didn't look like a country girl at all. Chunlu's mother figured it out quickly. After all, this was to meet the in-laws, so it was impossible for her to still wear homespun clothes, and it was normal for her to buy a set of clothes. As for his sister, it was said that she married a soldier 7 or 8 years ago. Her husband also had some positions in the army and was admitted to Beijing University. After so many years, it was possible that she became fashionable. It was just that this foundation was really good. She had never seen such a beautiful woman. Chunlu's mother felt more at ease. It seems that Yan Haoyan doesn't have any outstanding relatives. His sister and brother-in-law's families don't help him, but at least they don't ask for money. His parents also seem to be easy to get along with. After everyone met, they went into the tea house. Xia Huanhuan came here and made a reservation in advance. She chose a private room upstairs, which was convenient for talking. Chunlu's mother was very surprised. She thought that she would just book a seat in the lobby downstairs, but she didn't expect to book upstairs. Yan Haoyan ordered a few more common dim sum first, then asked Chen's father and mother about their appetite, ordered some more, and asked for a pot of biluakun. Soon the dim sum came up, and all kinds of things were set on the table. After everyone had been chatting and laughing for a while, Chunlu's mother got to the point. Regarding the engagement ceremony of Haoyan and Lulu, "In-laws, I'll call you in-laws first. Let me talk about it first. Although it's just an engagement banquet, it can't be too shabby. I've discussed with her father that it should be at least the level of the Friendship Hotel. If it's lower, we can't trust our daughter to Haoyan. As for the money, we can also make up some. The Friendship Hotel is a relatively good hotel, but it's not as good as the Victory Hotel."
Mom.
Chunlu shouted with some embarrassment. Xia Huanhuan had a vague feeling from the beginning that Chunlu's mother was somewhat disgusted with Yan Haoyan, and now this feeling was confirmed. Even Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru were too reserved to notice it at the beginning, but now they heard it and couldn't help but look at each other, not knowing how to answer. Xia Huanhuan glanced at Yan Haoyan and found that he was calm and composed, so she knew that Yan Haoyan must also know that Chunlu's mother disliked him. However, Yan Haoyan was not angry, and Xia Huanhuan would not be indignant for no reason. Lin Yuru asked Xia Huanhuan awkwardly. Xiao Tian, what hotel did you discuss with your sister last time? What was it called?
What?
Or should we just follow the in-laws' wishes and book it at the Friendship Hotel? Xia Shuangshan said. Oh, what is Sheng? It's the Victory Hotel. You didn't even remember the name, and you still have the nerve to say it. Then do you still need to ask Xiao Tian? You must follow the in-laws' wishes. Chunlu's mother and father on the opposite side widened their eyes in shock. Victory Hotel. That's a time-honored hotel in Guangzhou. Although it's not as good as the Baiyun Hotel, the first floor in the country, which opened recently this year, it's not much worse. Compared with this, the Friendship Hotel is far worse. Chunlu's mother originally thought that with Yan Haotian's family background, the Friendship Hotel might not be able to afford it, so she just said that they could also make up for the money. She would rather she and Chunlu's father pay some money than let Chunlu suffer any grievances. As a result, she didn't expect the other party to directly choose the Victory Hotel. Could this be borrowing money to fill the fat? Seeing the expression of Chunlu's mother, Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but smile. If she didn't know that Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru really couldn't tell the grade of the hotel, so she just said that, otherwise, even she would suspect that her parents were deliberately trying to slap the future in-laws in the face. Yan Haotian smiled and said, Aunt, we discussed it yesterday. The engagement banquet will be held at the Victory Hotel. As for the money, I have saved some money over the years, which is definitely enough. But if Aunt thinks that the Friendship Hotel is good, that's fine. I'll listen to you. Chunlu's mother looked a little unhappy, and Chunlu's father said at this time, since Haotian chose the Victory Hotel, then let's go to the Victory Hotel. The Victory Hotel is better than the Friendship Hotel. Xia Huanhuan glanced at Chunlu's father, who was an honest man. The location of the engagement banquet was settled, and the rest was a discussion of some details. Everyone had almost finished their tea and snacks, and were about to leave after talking for a while. When they were going downstairs, suddenly a few handsome young men in plain clothes saw Yan Haotian, and they all stood aside in silence. Yan Haotian saw them and asked unhappily, You are not training at the base, so you have the leisure to come over for morning tea? What are you doing? Several people lowered their heads in embarrassment. One of them bravely smiled and said, Hee hee. Captain, aren't we also curious about who our future sister-in-law will be? We came to take a look. We are the representatives of the whole regiment. Yan Haotian laughed and said, Oh, does this mean that if I punish you, the whole regiment must be punished together? You are really good at collective punishment, right? The young man who spoke shook his head quickly. That's not possible. Commander, we are really worried about you. Yan Haotian didn't say much to them and laughed and scolded. Okay. I almost hurried back to the barracks after eating. No one can do 100 push-ups. The young man replied with a sad face. I know, Commander. After returning home, Chunlu's mother held it in for a long time and still asked suspiciously, Lu, Haotian is in the army. Is he the commander? Chunlu was stunned for a moment and said, Yes, he is a regimental-level cadre, don't you know? Chunlu's mother and Chunlu's father looked at each other, looking confused. Then, Chunlu's mother was angry. You kid, you didn't even tell us, how could we know? She had always thought that Yan Haotian was just an ordinary soldier, without any official position. Without an official position, wouldn't he have to retire and become a civilian when he gets older? If she had known earlier that he was the regiment commander, why would she and Chunlu's father have been worried and opposed? It's not that Chunlu's mother is snobbish. She is more afraid that her daughter will suffer after marrying him, and she has no idea of taking advantage of the man. Otherwise, she would not have secretly told Chunlu's father that they would take out money to buy a house in Guangzhou for their daughter in the future. Now that such a big misunderstanding has happened, Chunlu's mother is a little embarrassed and scolded Chunlu. You didn't mention such an important thing, which made your father and I worry that Haotian might retire and go back to the countryside to farm in a year or two. If we had known earlier that he was the regiment commander, we wouldn't have been so opposed at the beginning. Chunlu's father spoiled it, saying, Do involve me. I'm not very opposed. I just listen to you. Chunlu's mother was angry. What's wrong with you? Are you still planning to make a fuss? You don't object? Now you know how to please your daughter, don't you? Seeing that her parents were about to quarrel, Chenlu quickly said, Dad, Mom, stop arguing. Whether Hao Tian is the regiment commander or not, I'm going to marry him anyway. So it doesn't matter whether you say it or not. Chenlu's mother sighed and said, You are still young. You will understand Mom's intentions in a few years. Well, since Hao Tian is the regiment commander, I heard that the army also distributes houses. When he gets married, he should be able to settle down in Guangshi, right? If there is no distribution of houses, your dad and I will help you with some money and buy you a house in Guangshi. After hearing this, Chenlu said, Mom, you think too far ahead. The engagement hasn't even been confirmed yet. The engagement banquet was finally held at the Victory Hotel. In addition to the families and relatives of both parties, Yan Haotian's superiors and subordinates in the army also came to congratulate. Li Zhan also brought Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei, the triplets, and rushed over, and the party was quite lively. After the engagement party, it was soon to be the new year. Xia Huanhuan, Li Zhan, the children, and Zhou Qiuhe came back first. Xia Shuangshan, Lin Yuru, and Yan Haotian had not spent a few years together, so they stayed in Guangzhou for the new year. The army also specially arranged 2 dormitories for them to live in. Yan Haotian and Chenlu took advantage of the New Year holiday to accompany them to the flower market, buy New Year's goods, and had a very happy time. Here, Xia Huanhuan took Zhou Qiuhe to buy a lot of clothes, including many children's clothes, and asked train freight to transport them back to the county and Beijing. Zhou Qiuhe set up a stall in the county during the new year, just in time for the new year. On the other hand, most of the children bought clothes for the children, so they were quickly sold out. It was similar in Xia Huanhuan's Beijing city. After the clothing store put children's clothes on the shelves, there was a constant stream of customers. The turnover during the New Year holidays was almost equal to the turnover of a normal month. Although Xia Huanhuan was busy with Yan Haotian's engagement when she went to Guangzhou this time, she still found time to contact Chen Rongxing and Smith. This time, she bought 10 color TVs and other things like tape recorders. 200 pearls were also sold. Dahe was still in charge of selling color TVs, tape recorders, and the like. Last time Dahe asked Xia Huanhuan to ask about Qiningyu, Xia Huanhuan asked, and Qiningyu blushed and shook his head, and asked who asked. Xia Huanhuan did not hide it, and told her what Dahe asked her to ask. Things between men and women, sometimes it all depends on fate. Xia Huanhuan didn't intend to be a matchmaker and randomly match couples. If Qiningyu didn't have that intention, she would have just told Dahe and asked him to find another girl. If there was one, then they could develop the relationship further. Qiningyu heard this and remembered the time he met a dark-skinned man at Xia Huanhuan's house. Although he was a little darker, he was tall, and although he wasn't very handsome, he was masculine and upright. Her heart couldn't help but beat faster, and her cheeks turned even redder. Xia Huanhuan saw this. She smiled and said, It seems that Dahe wants to pursue you and date you. If you don't want to, I will tell him directly, and I guarantee that he will never have any improper thoughts in the future. However, if you also think he is okay and there is some possibility, I will tell him that you are still single. Ningyu, what do you say? Qiningyu was too embarrassed to look at Xia Huanhuan and asked shyly, Sister Huanhuan, what is his character like? Seeing her like this, Xia Huanhuan knew that there should be some possibility, so she smiled and said, I have been in contact with him for several years. He is well known in the alley. You can't say that he is very gentle and upright, but he has some loyalty of a hero. However, his heart is not bad. He is a bit ruffian, but not a. He is also reliable. However, his family background is not very good, but he is ambitious. In the past few years, he has been saving money desperately in order to get married and start a family. Ningyu, when you ask this, can I understand that you are willing for him to pursue you? Qiningyu's face turned even redder, and she covered her face and went to sort out the clothes. I won't tell you anymore. I'm still busy. Whatever he asks, just tell him, Sister Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan heard it and told Dahe when she met Dahe again. Dahe was overjoyed and took the opportunity to help Xia Huanhuan deliver clothes, unload goods, and sort goods, and ran to the clothing store from time to time, taking the opportunity to talk to Qiningyu. Xia Huanhuan did not interfere anymore, and let the two of them go and date on their own. This year, Chen Yan also returned to the county to celebrate the new year with her family. Xia Huanhuan decided not to be so busy and only went to Yangxiangju and the clothing store occasionally, but most of the things were left to the people below. She stayed at home with Li Zhan and the children, and together with Xin Wanxue, Rong Zhenbang, and Yang Qiushi, they made dumplings, fried them, and other delicious food, and spent the new year in peace and leisure. After eating dumplings on the morning of the first day of the Lunar New Year, Li Zhan took Xiaowen, Xiaowu, Beibei, and the triplets to climb Jingshan Mountain. After climbing Jingshan Mountain, they went to Hohai near their home to skate. Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei had already learned how to skate on the ice wearing skates. Li Zhan didn't pay attention and concentrated on teaching the triplets to skate. Suddenly, Beibei shouted loudly, "Who are you? I don't know you. Let me go." Li Zhan turned his head quickly and saw a gray-haired woman holding Beibei's arm tightly, trying to cover Beibei's mouth, and muttering anxiously, "Don't scream. Are you Beibei?" "Beibei, I'm your real mother." Beibei was still struggling desperately, shouting in fear, "You are not my mother. My mother is at home. Let me go." Li Zhan rushed over and shouted loudly, "Beibei." Xiaowen and Xiaowu had originally slid to the other side of the lake, and now they also hurried back, shouting, "Beibei, you crazy woman, let my sister go." The woman saw Li Zhan, and then looked at the two half-grown children who were sliding back at this moment, and shrank her body, so she had to let go of Beibei and ran away in embarrassment. Li Zhan went over and took Beibei into his arms, but his eyes were looking at the fleeing woman, a little hesitant. He always felt as if he had seen this woman somewhere. Xiaowen and Xiaowu also rushed over and asked, "Beibei, what's going on?" Beibei was already scared and cried, sobbing, "Big brother, second brother, that woman wanted to kidnap me and said she was my mother, whoa." Xiaowu was indignant after hearing this. In broad daylight, they dared to kidnap a child. "Beibei, don't be afraid. Second brother will protect you." Xiaowen's heart suddenly tightened, and he subconsciously looked in the direction where the woman ran away. The triplets also stumbled and slid over, and one by one they held Beibei like little warm men and comforted her. "Sister, don't be afraid. The three of us will protect you too." Li Zhan thought for a while and said, "Okay, we've played for a while, let's go home." After what happened just now, everyone was no longer in the mood to play, and even the playful triplets followed him back obediently. Xia Huanhuan had been a little sleepy and easily tired these days. She had planned to go hiking with Li Zhan and Xiao in the morning and to go ice skating, but she was too lazy to do so, so she let them go by themselves. When Li Zhan returned with the children, he saw Xia Huanhuan sleeping in the house. He couldn't help but get worried, so he went in quickly, inserted the thermometer into Xia Huanhuan's armpit, and took her temperature. Xia Huanhuan was woken up by him and smiled lazily. "What are you doing?" "I'm so sleepy, it's so cold." Li Zhan smiled. "You're sleeping in broad daylight. I'm worried that you may have a fever. Let me take your temperature, just lie down and don't move." Xia Huanhuan smiled. "I'm in good health. I'm probably just busy with business before the new year, and I'm tired. How could I have a fever?" "You're worrying unnecessarily." Li Zhan tucked the quilt for her and said, "It's always better to be careful. You're not in good spirits and you run a medicine shop at home, and Uncle Yang is here. How can you not know that you're sick? Sleep a little longer, and when you get up, let Uncle Yang take your pulse." Xia Huanhuan wanted to refuse. It was not like she didn't know how to take pulses, so why bother the master? But thinking about Li Zhan's temper, she probably couldn't beat him, so she nodded obediently and said, "Okay, I'll listen to you, my husband." Li Zhan couldn't help pinching her face and said with a smile, "Just hire me." After a while, Li Zhan took out the thermometer and checked, and it was indeed not feverish. He breathed a sigh of relief and said, "I'll go make you some porridge. You can sleep for a while." Xia Huanhuan felt sweet in her heart and agreed. She closed her eyes and slept for a while. She didn't know how long it had been before she was woken up in a daze. Li Zhan brought porridge to her and said with a smile, "Sit up, I can feed you." Xia Huanhuan rolled her eyes at him, half sat up and took the bowl of porridge, and said angrily, "What a shame. It's not like I can't drink it myself." After drinking the porridge, Xia Huanhuan got up amid Li Zhan's nagging. She felt her own pulse first, and then couldn't help but be stunned. Li Zhan didn't understand and asked, "What's wrong? Isn't there something wrong?" Xia Huanhuan's heart was beating fast, and she didn't dare to be sure for the time being, so she said, "I'm not sure either. Let's ask the master to help me feel it again." If it was someone else, she would have been sure, but she was a little unsure about feeling her own pulse. Li Zhan quickly took her to Yang Qiushi's room. After hearing this, Yang Qiushi took out the wrist pillow and felt Xia Huanhuan's pulse. After taking the pulse, Yang Qiushi looked at Xia Huanhuan with a smile, kept her in suspense and asked, "Have you taken your own pulse?" Xia Huanhuan blinked, nodded, and smiled. "I have taken my own pulse. It's my own business. I can't really pay attention to it." Li Zhan was anxious and said, "Uncle Yang, stop playing guessing games with Huanhuan. Is Huanhuan okay?" Yang Qiushi laughed and said, "Yes, but it's a good thing." Li Zhan was stunned. Yang Qiushi didn't keep it a secret any longer and said with a smile, "Your wife is pregnant. She's been pregnant for 2 months." After hearing this, Li Zhan looked at Xia Huanhuan in a daze at first, and then he was delighted. "Huanhuan, is this true?" Xia Huanhuan pushed her and smiled. "Of course it's true. How could I lie to you?" Li Zhan picked up Xia Huanhuan and said, "Wife, that's great. We are finally going to have a daughter." Xia Huanhuan's mouth twitched and she smiled. "What you said, if it's another son, are you going to put him back into my belly?" Li Zhan grinned and said, "Not yet. If it's another son, then we'll keep working hard until we have a daughter." Xia Huanhuan punched him. "Go away. You're so frivolous." Yang Qiushi was speechless as he watched the two flirting. "You guys are happy, but go back to your room and have some fun. The old man can't bear to watch." Xia Huanhuan blushed and glared at Li Zhan. Li Zhan smiled and took Xia Huanhuan back to his room. Shen Wanxue and Rong Zhenbang soon found out about Xia Huanhuan's pregnancy and were overjoyed. Shen Wanxue said with a smile, "From now on, you don't have to do the housework at home. For cooking, your father, Li Zhan, and Lao Yang can all help. If that doesn't work, we can find an aunt after the new year." Xia Huanhuan said with a smile, "Mom, I'm not that squeamish. Besides, it will be easier to give birth in the future if you move more." Shen Wanxue immediately said, "It is most likely to happen in the early stages of pregnancy. You can't be careless. You listen to me." Li Zhan also said with a smile, "Huanhuan, you listen. If you want to move around, I will accompany you for a walk, the same thing." After discussing, everyone finally decided to invite another aunt to help. Xiaowen, Xiaowu, Beibei, and the triplets were also very happy to hear that Xia Huanhuan was pregnant. The triplets chattered around her. "Mom, are you pregnant with a sister?" "I want a sister. I don't want a stinky brother anymore," Yan Yan said. Ye and Yao Yao frowned at Yan Yan and argued, "We are not stinky. The third brother is stinky." Xia Huanhuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. They could even quarrel over this? Ye said seriously, "Mom, I also want a sister. I have brothers, sisters, and brothers, but I am missing a sister." Yao Yao thought about it and felt very sad because he didn't have a brother. He looked at Xia Huanhuan eagerly and said, "Mom, why don't you give birth to 2, a brother and a sister, so that I can have a brother too?" Xia Huanhuan was helpless. Is this something she can control? Xiaowu and Beibei also actively expressed their opinions. "Mom, we also want a sister. There are too many brothers in the family." The triplets were very shocked when they heard it. "Second brother, sister. Do you two dislike us?" Only Xiaowen stood aside, happy but a little lonely. Xia Huanhuan noticed Xiaowen's look, but didn't say anything. At night, Xia Huanhuan secretly asked Li Zhan what was wrong with Xiaowen. Li Zhan told him about a woman who had been holding Beibei during the day. "I always felt like I've seen that woman somewhere before. She looked like..." "Who did she look like?" Li Zhan frowned, pondered for a moment, and said, "Maybe I remembered it wrong. She looked like my sister-in-law. Xiaowen looked like that during the day, so maybe I recognized her a little bit." Li Zhan's sister-in-law was naturally the mother of Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei. After Li Zhan's elder brother got into trouble, Xiaowen's mother remarried and left without taking any of the children with her. Xiaowen was about 5 years old at that time, so she might remember something. Xiao was 4 years old, and Beibei was 3 years old. I'm afraid they had forgotten what their mother looked like. But if it was really that woman, why did she appear again after a few years? Moreover, since she recognized Beibei, she must know where her home was. Why didn't she come to her home directly to find the child? Instead, she tried to take Beibei away by force? Xia Huanhuan frowned and said, "Tell Xiaowen and the others not to go out alone these days. You should also pay attention to your surroundings and see if you can find that woman." Her previous thought was that she would raise Xiaowen and his 3 siblings, and if their biological mother came to find them in the future and they were willing to go with her, she would not stop them. However, she would come to take the children back in a legitimate way, not in such a sneaky way. Li Zhan nodded and said, "Don't worry about this. Your most important task now is to take care of the baby. If it's really my sister-in-law and she wants the baby, then she can come to my house and tell me with a legitimate reason. I won't let her take the baby away even with this method." Xia Huanhuan sighed and said, "Who said it wasn't?" After saying that, she couldn't help laughing and said, "You are too cautious. I have told you several times today about taking care of the baby. How can I be so fragile?" Li Zhan said, "I am worried because you are too strong. You should put aside the business matters for the time being and don't worry too much. As for school, how about discussing with the school to take a year off and go back to school after the baby is born?" Xia Huanhuan thought for a while and said, "I will listen to you about business matters. Leave them to Ningyu, Dahe, and third brother. I will try not to worry about them. But I don't plan to take a leave of absence from school." Calculating the time, it is now the middle of February in the Gregorian calendar, and the baby will be born around August. The summer vacation in July and August is also adjustable in terms of time. Li Zhan looked at her without temper and said, "Okay. However, if there is anything, you have to listen to me and ask for leave immediately, understand?" Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "I know. Is it not enough for me to listen to you?" The two talked for a while in the room and fell asleep, and did not notice that someone was standing outside and heard their conversation. This person was Xiaowen. However, Xiaowen did not mean to eavesdrop. As Li Zhan guessed, Xiaowen did recognize the woman. When his mother left, he was not yet 5 years old, only 4.5 years old. He dragged Xiaowu and Beibei, who was still stumbling, out of the village and ran a long way. The 3 of them cried while chasing, but their biological mother did not come back to take them away. It would be a lie to say that he did not resent her. Now, even if that woman really came back, Xiaowen would not recognize her. But fourth uncle and mom raised them because they had no parents. Now that their biological mother is back, will fourth uncle and mom still want them? Xiaowen was worried, so he wanted to come over to ask. However, before he could go in, he heard what Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan said. "If she wants the child, then she can come to my house and ask for the right reasons. I won't let her take the child away even with this method." Fourth uncle said this. If their mother came to the house, fourth uncle would agree to let their biological mother take them away. Also, mom also said that she would look for that woman. After finding her, would she let her take the 3 siblings away? If it were any other time, Xiaowen would not have misunderstood like this, but Xia Huanhuan had just been diagnosed with being pregnant again today, and coupled with what he heard, Xiaowen could not help but feel scared. After standing outside the door for a long time, Xiaowen went back restlessly. After not sleeping well the previous night, Xiaowen secretly got up at dawn the next morning, found all the money he had on him, and went out without eating breakfast. The last time they met was in Hohai, and the last time, half a year ago, when they went to the summer palace to play, Beibei also mentioned that it seemed like someone was secretly watching them. Xiaowen did not care that time, but now thinking about it, could it be that woman who was secretly watching them? This time she suddenly appeared on the first day of the Lunar New Year, so she should still be nearby these 2 days, right? Xiaowen walked around the area, and he actually ran into that woman again in Hohai. When the woman saw Xiaowen, she was stunned for a moment. Then she came forward happily, looking at Xiaowen, who was almost as tall as her, and asked in a trembling voice, "Xiaowen?
Xiaowen, is that you? Do you
still remember me? I'm your mother." The woman's hair was already gray, and her face was full of vicissitudes. It was hard to tell that she was only in her 30s. Seeing her so embarrassed, Xiaowen didn't know whether to hate her or pity her, but he still dodged the woman's hand that was stretched out and tried to grab his hand. Although his memory was a little fuzzy, the woman in front of him was almost certainly his biological mother. When the woman saw Xiaowen avoiding her, her expression was a little sad, but she quickly recovered with a flattering smile on her face.
Xiaowen,
I heard that you later lived with your fourth uncle and others? Have you been doing well these years? In fact, you can tell without asking. She also saw it yesterday. The 3 children were all wearing brand new clothes. They had grown so tall, but they were not pale and skinny. They must be living very well. Moreover, she also went back to Qingshui village and heard that Li Zhan, his wife, and children had moved to Beijing City and were doing big business and making a fortune. How could it not be good for the 3 children to live with them? Xiaowen did not answer, but looked at her coldly and resentfully and asked, "It's been so many years. Why are you here again?" The woman was obviously a little timid, with a guilty expression on her face, and said in a flattering way, "Xiaowen, Mom has not lived well these years. Mom didn't mean to not take you away at that time. It was the new in-laws who didn't want to. If I took you with me, then they wouldn't want Mom anymore." Xiaowen's heart felt like it was cut by a knife. He didn't come here to listen to these excuses. "Don't keep calling me Mom. My real mom didn't want us anymore. My mom is Xia Huanhuan now. Just tell me why you are here and why you wanted to take Beibei away yesterday." The woman lowered her eyes hurt and then said, "Xiaowen, Mom. I know you blame me in your heart, but I really had no choice at that time. Actually, I heard from the villagers that your fourth uncle has been very good to you over the years. If I took you away, you would have suffered a lot with me. Alas, I know you don't want to hear this. I came here this time actually for your brother." Xiaowen was stunned. When did he have a brother? The woman quickly explained, "He's not your biological brother, but the child of my new in-law's uncle. They're getting married soon, but the woman wants 200 yuan, and my family can't afford the gift money. Your uncle asked me to come and ask, haven't your fourth uncle and fourth aunt done a good business these years? Xiaowen, can you help me talk to your fourth uncle and see if he can lend me 200 yuan? Xiaowen looked at the old woman in front of him in shock, and he couldn't breathe as if a big stone was blocking his chest. He opened his mouth, but couldn't say a word for a while. He tossed and turned last night, thinking about many things she would say after seeing her and why she came. He even thought that maybe she came this time to take him and Xiao Wu Beibei back. If that was the case, although he still couldn't help hating her, at least he would be a little happier in his heart. Although she abandoned them back then, now, at least she came to find them. But he didn't expect that she came for the gift money of her new husband's son. She was so cruel to abandon her own son and daughter, but now she is here to fight against her fourth uncle for a son who is not related by blood. Xiaowen was a child under 14 years old, and tears welled up in his eyes. He glared at his own mother with hatred, then turned around and left without looking back.
"Xiaowen,
don't leave. Listen to me." The woman was anxious when she saw this, and she rushed a few steps to grab Xiaowen's arm. Xiaowen angrily threw her away, choking and shouting, "Don't touch me. You are not my mother. You are someone else's mother." Xiaowen. The woman shouted, crying and crying. What else can she do? If she doesn't come, her husband will divorce her. After she married, she gave birth to a daughter. If she was driven away, even her daughter would be on the street with her. She only knew that a woman had to rely on her husband and son for her whole life. When Li Jun was alive, she relied on Li Jun. Li Jun died, and she had to rely on the man she is now. If the man doesn't want her now, how can she support herself and her daughter? When the family woke up in the morning, they were very anxious to see Xiaowen missing. Li Zhan and others hurried out to look for her. Xia Huanhuan was also anxious to go out, but was stopped by Li Zhan. It is so cold, you stay at home and don't go out. Besides, what if Xiaowen comes back by himself and no one is at home? Xia Huanhuan nodded after hearing this, and couldn't help but asked worriedly, Li Zhan, do you think? Could it be related to that woman last night? Li Zhan also suspected this in his heart. He touched Xia Huanhuan's head and said, don't think too much. I heard from Xiaowu and Beibei that Xiaowen was still at home last night. Even if he went out, he shouldn't have gone too far. Don't worry, we will definitely find him. When Xiaowen came back, only Xia Huanhuan was at home. When Xia Huanhuan saw him coming back, she finally let go of her worries. Seeing his red eyes, he must have been crying for a long time without knowing where. Xia Huanhuan did not blame him, but smiled and said calmly, you are back? There are rice and vegetables in the pot. Go and eat. After eating, we still have to go to Grandpa, great-grandfather's house and third uncle's house to pay New Year's greetings. Xiaowen's nose was sore for some reason when he heard it, and the tears that he had held back with great difficulty fell again, and he raised his sleeves to wipe them. Seeing him like this, Xia Huanhuan could not help but feel distressed. From the moment she met Xiaowen, this child was sensible. His younger brothers and sisters cried and were willful, but he never made a fuss and asked for this or that. Instead, he helped to cook and do housework in elementary school and took care of his younger brothers and sisters and helped them with their work. From childhood to adulthood, he was a good brother, and the number of times he cried was few and far between. Now he is 13 or 14 years old, and his height is almost catching up with her. He is a big child, but he suddenly cried like a tearful man, which is even more touching. Xia Huanhuan handed him a hand and smiled. It's New Year's Day, what's wrong? Xiaowen shook his head, wiped his tears, and then asked intermittently, Mom, you and fourth uncle, will you not want us in the future? Just like his biological mother. Xia Huanhuan knew that her guess was right, and this matter must be related to Xiaowen's biological mother. Silly boy, if you're fourth uncle, and I don't want you, wouldn't we have done so many years ago? Why wait until now? Besides, raising children is a way to prepare for old age. You said that you're fourth uncle, and I have worked hard for almost 10 years, and you are about to grow up. We are all waiting for you to take care of us in our old age and honor us. Now you say that we don't want you, and we don't agree. Isn't this making your fourth uncle, and I do a loss-making business? Xiaowen couldn't help laughing, but then tears came again. However, this time they were no longer sad tears, but tears of peace and happiness. Even if their biological mother doesn't want them, at least. There is still mother and fourth uncle who don't mind them being a burden. Okay, go wash your face with hot water, eat dumplings and go outside to find your fourth uncle and others. The whole family is worried about you and ran out to find you. Xiaowen nodded and went to wash his face. Just as he turned around, he turned back and said softly, Mom, I went out this morning to see that woman. That is the biological mother of Xiaowu, me and Beibei. I went. Xia Huanhuan didn't expect Xiaowen to suddenly confess to her, so she listened quietly, nodded and said, Well, I guessed it. If you want to say something, just tell me. If you don't want to say it, it doesn't matter. Mom doesn't care about these. Xiaowen lowered his head and was silent for a while, but still told them what his biological mother came to find them to do. Xia Huanhuan was also angry and amused after listening. What kind of weird biological mother is this? She left her 3 biological children behind and went to be a stepmother to someone else. The point is, being a stepmother is fine, but now she is beating up her own biological child for the sake of her stepson? Fortunately, she had the nerve to say it. In fact, Xia Huanhuan could probably guess what this woman was thinking. She was afraid that she had been indoctrinated with the idea that men are gods since she was a child, so she could do whatever her man said. In order to remarry, she even abandoned her own flesh and blood, who were only a few years old. There is nothing strange about doing these things now. These things are not something you, a child, should have to worry about. Don't worry, your fourth uncle is here. Even if your real mother comes here again, your fourth uncle will handle it. Xiaowen nodded and sniffed. Just as he was talking, Li Zhan and the others came back. Brother, where did you go? Xiao Wu, Beibei, and the triplets all gathered around and asked. Xiaowen tried his best to smile and said, I just went out for a walk, aren't I back? You guys just like to worry about it. Beibei saw Xiaowen's eyes were red. He asked, Brother, are you crying? Xiaowen said with a smile, How old is your eldest brother? And you are celebrating the new year. Why are you crying? It's just that the wind is strong and the sand is blinding you. Adults everyone could tell that Xiaowen had cried, but they didn't reveal it. Shen Wanxue smiled and said, No. I just went out, and there was a burst of sand. My eyes were red. Everyone talked and laughed, and put the matter aside. Li Zhan waited for everyone to disperse before secretly asking Xia Huanhuan what was going on. Xia Huanhuan told Xiaowen what happened when his mother came over. After hearing this, Li Zhan couldn't help but feel angry and funny. I'll look for him in the next 2 days and see if I can send him away. This kind of mother, even if she really comes to ask for Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei, I won't agree to her taking them away. He used to go out to serve as a soldier, and his impression of this sister-in-law was that she was submissive, and was bullied by Lu Lan and Wang Guixiang. Li Zhan only felt sorry for her before. Now, I understand that there must be something hateful about poor people. If she had been tougher, even if she had been widowed for a while with 3 children, after knowing the situation at home, he could have allocated part of the allowance to Lu Lan to support her, and she would not have been in the current situation. Xia Huanhuan sighed and said, Who says it's not the case? On the 2nd day of the Lunar New Year, Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan didn't say anything more, so they took the prepared New Year gifts and took the children back to Fu's house. Fu Nanzheng and Yu Siju came back with their children, as well as the second brother Fu and the eldest brother Fu. The Fu family was very lively. The dozen or so children at home, big and small, played wildly together and ran out to play with the children in the compound. Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan accompanied Mr. Fu and Fu Weixin for a walk and chatted about homely things. Mr. Fu and Fu Weixin already knew that Xia Huanhuan was pregnant again, and they were very happy. Mr. Fu smiled and said, You must give me a great-granddaughter this time. We have a lot of boys in the Fu family, but not many girls. Work harder. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but blush and said, Oh, Grandpa, how can I decide this matter? As they were talking, the triplets came back in a hurry and said, Dad, Mom, it's bad. My elder brother and second brother can't be found. Brother Chao and Sister Heping are both looking for it. When the adults heard this, they were all shocked and hurriedly went out to look for it. Mr. Fu and Fu Weixin quickly contacted the police station and asked for help to search together. Under this situation, it took less than half a day to capture Xiaowen, his mother, and her man who were taking Beibei to the train station and were about to get on the train. After the interrogation, we found out that Xiaowen's mother was beaten by her man when she saw that Xiaowen refused to help her borrow money from Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan. Then, her man became evil and bold, and planned to take Beibei back to the village and marry an old bachelor in the village. He would give his son a wife by earning the bride price. Her man is uneducated and doesn't care whether it is illegal or not. Xiaowen's own mother is cowardly by nature and has been frightened by being beaten over the years. How can she dare to refute her? He secretly took Beibei away while no adults were watching. After Beibei was found, she cried like a trumpet. She threw herself into Xiaowen's arms and asked, Brother, is that woman really our biological mother? Unlike Xiaowen, when their biological mother remarried and left, Xiao Wu and Beibei were still ignorant. In fact, their resentment towards their biological mother was not that deep. In their hearts, they still had some illusions about their biological mother. Now, the illusion is shattered. What kind of biological mother can send a daughter who is only 12 or 13 years old to be a child bride? Xiao Wu was stunned for a moment, shocked, disappointed, and sad all intertwined, and asked in a voice, Mom? Beibei, what are you talking about? The woman who kidnapped you is our mother?
She.
Why is she like this? Bebe nodded. That woman only agreed to talk to her in an alley after saying she was her own mother, and then the man covered her mouth and pulled her away without saying a word. Xiaowen hugged Bebe and said calmly, Xiao, Bebe, don't cry you too. From now on, we will pretend that we don't have this biological mother. However, in the end, Xiaowen and his biological mother were not arrested. She was just an accessory to the crime, and the police station educated her and let her go. However, her man was definitely going to be caught for kidnapping a child on the street. Xiaowen's own mother was a person without a backbone, so she stayed at the police station and insisted on letting her man go. Li Zhan went over and felt that although this woman was hateful, she was also pitiable, so she withdrew the case. The police station also thought that the man was illiterate and it was his first offender, so they agreed to be lenient this time and not pursue the case. Li Zhan finally gave the woman 100 yuan and said, Sister-in-law, this is probably the last time I will call you sister-in-law. I am not giving you this 100 yuan as a gift for your stepson. Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Bebe, forget it. I heard that you gave birth to another daughter. You should at least protect that one, right? This man dared to kidnap Bebe and sell him as a child bride. Tomorrow, your daughter may end up with the same fate. If you still want money next time, you don't have to come to visit me again, and I won't let Xiaowen and the others see you again, and I won't give you any more money. But if you decide to divorce this man one day, bring your daughter over and we can help you. After saying that, Li Zhan left without looking back. If he can give me 100 yuan, he has done his utmost to be kind and righteous. If she is willing to divorce, he and Xia Huanhuan can help her find a job. Even if it is cooking and washing clothes for others, they can support themselves and their daughter. He and Xia Huanhuan could also help her to some extent. But if she doesn't live up to expectations and insists on clinging to such a man for the rest of her life, then giving money will be a bottomless pit. No matter how much money is given, in the end, I'm afraid not even a penny of the money will be spent on her and her daughter. If a person doesn't help himself, there is nothing others can do no matter how anxious they are. Xiaowen's biological mother held 100 yuan, looked at Li Zhan's back in confusion, opened her mouth, but did not say a word. Divorce? She is over 40, and she is divorced. What other man would want her? How can she support herself? Li Zhan returned home and told Xia Huanhuan about the matter. Xia Huanhuan sighed and said, Alas, cowardice is cowardice. It is selfish enough for a mother to do this. Li Zhan said, Let's not talk about these things. I'm going to see Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Bebe. They must be feeling bad too. Xia Huanhuan said, No need to go. I just went to see them, and they're already asleep. Li Zhan nodded and said, Forget it. Let's pay more attention these days. I don't know if that man will not change his mind and still sneak around. Fortunately, the man may be scared. Went back, and nothing else happened after that. March and April are quickly approaching, and the weather is getting warmer. Xia Huanhuan didn't pay much attention to business matters except for those things where she had to personally deliver the ingredients. Xia Huanhuan did not go to Guangzhou to buy clothes. She asked Qi Ningyu and Zhou Qiuhe to go there together to pick out the styles, and then asked the postal service to send them back. Zhou Qiuhe has just started and doesn't know much about it, but Qi Ningyu has been working in a clothing store for more than a year. Although it is the first time to go to Guangzhou to buy goods, his insights and predictions about styles are still very accurate. The two of them had complementary experiences, and they worked in Lao Jin's shop. Lao Jin also knew that they were Xia Huanhuan's subordinates, so he gave them the lowest wholesale price. Therefore, after a few times, the two of them gradually developed their skills. The renovation of the 5 drug stores in Beijing was also coming to an end, and Li Jie returned to the county seat. When he returned this time, he made up his mind to move his family to Beijing. When he was in the county town before, he actually didn't agree with Zhou Qiuhe quitting his iron job and his family giving up the family business they had finally won in the county town to come to the capital. However, a few months in Beijing caused his thoughts to undergo a 180-degree turn. In the past, Li Jie felt that life in the county town was already very good. They had a small shop and Zhou Qiuhe had a stable income. But when he came to Beijing, He saw such a big city with so many ancient buildings and bicycles on the road. It is many times more than the county seat. If a person goes to higher places, even if it is not for himself and Zhou Qiuhe, but for the 2 daughters and 2 sons at home, he should still fight for it while he is young. Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan have already discussed the matter of their children's schooling. Apart from this matter, they only have to rent a house and make a living. Li Jie told Zhou Qiuhe these things when he went back. Zhou Qiuhe smiled and said, "You finally figured it out."
Li Jie nodded and said, "Yeah."
Li Zhan and Huanhuan asked me to renovate the drugstore this time. After spending these 5 drugstores, I have 1,000 yuan. Let us use our savings to buy a shop in Beijing. I don't believe that as long as we work hard, we will be able to stand firm. Zhou Qiuhe asked, "What about the shop in the county?" Li Jie thought for a while and said, "Don't sell it yet. If the business in Beijing fails and we can no longer survive, there is still a way out for us to return to the county seat. Last time you and Huanhuan went to Guangshi, didn't you ask the eldest sister to come over and check out the store? I was thinking about asking the eldest sister to come over and look after the store for us and give her more salary. Once we have established a foothold in Beijing, we can then talk about selling the store." Zhou Qiuhe nodded and said, "Well, I think so too." After the 2 of them discussed it, they started making arrangements for the move. They planned to wait until May or June. Li Jie would rent a house and look for shops first. When the children went on summer vacation, they would move there with the whole family. It happened to be September. She could catch up with school. Li Zhan didn't bother Li Jie too much about renting a house. Shen Wanxue and Rong Zhenbong had 2 courtyard houses under their names, and they were living with them now, so the 2 houses were empty. In addition, Xia Huanhuan also bought a small set, which is also in the warehouse now, but it is a little far away. Li Zhan talked to Shen Wanxue and Rong Zhenbong and finally brought 2 small sets into the courtyard. I rented it to Li Jie. The rent was not much, just 30 yuan a month. However, Li Zhan was afraid that they had just moved here and he had to buy a shop, so he was definitely tight on money, so he didn't need the rent for the first 6 months. Li Jie refused, saying that his siblings had already helped him and Qiuhe a lot, and they couldn't take advantage anymore. After talking for a long time, Li Jie and Zhou Qiuhe decided to open a snack shop and sell steamed buns and fried dough sticks, mutton soup dumplings, and the like. Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan also looked for shops with him. It has been open for more than a year. The shops on the street that used to be empty have gradually opened, and the competition has become fierce. The sales of the shops have become fierce. The price went up even more. Finally, I chose a store with a good location and size, but it cost 3,500 yuan to buy it. If I rented it, it would be 1,000 yuan a month. Li Jie had the money to decorate the shop. He has made more than 1,000 yuan in profit from opening stores in the past year, and his previous savings are about 400 to 500 yuan. After calculation, Li Jie is still a little short of 1,000 yuan, which is not enough to buy a store. All my savings have been used up, and I still owe 1,000 yuan. If I really lose money, even if I want to go back to the county, it might not be that easy. Xia Huanhuan said with a smile. "Third brother, this store is good. Now you think it costs 3,500, but if you look again in half a year, I'm afraid it will be more than this price. I think it's worth it. If you dare to take the risk and take it, Li Zhan, and I will lend you how much money you need first, and then you can pay us back after you settle down and make money." Now the real estate in the city has gradually begun to take off. Residential real estate is one piece, and commercial real estate is another. In 10 or 20 years, it will be 100 times. Now 3,005, maybe 10 years later, it will be 35,000. In 20 years, it will be 350,000, or even millions. Even if it is just empty business, it will still be a very considerable profit in 20 years. However, Xia Huanhuan cannot do this. Tell Li Jie. Now, it depends on whether Li Jie has the courage to buy it. Li Jie was no longer a human being, and he didn't hesitate when he decided. After thinking about it, he gritted his teeth and said, "Buy." Li Jie's purchase of the store was quickly completed, and then he went to various departments to apply for business licenses, permits, and other procedures. At this step, Xia Huanhuan accompanied Li Zhan and Li Jie. Because Yuan Xiangju has gained the attention of the district. Last time Xia Huanhuan accompanied the district chief to receive foreign guests, it was reported in the newspapers. Therefore, all the staff in various departments knew Xia Huanhuan, although it was not a back door, but Li Jie was the only one. As a rural person from out of town, and without a household registration, it would not be so smooth if he had to go through all the procedures alone. Anyway, it took 2 or 3 months, and by the beginning of July, the procedures and so on were completed. Everything was finally done. During this time, Li Jie had also repainted the store, bought the tables and chairs, and everything was ready to open the store, so Zhou Qiuhe officially entrusted the store to his aunt. Sister Li recruited her brother and her husband to take the train to Beijing. This would cost a whole day in Beijing, so Zhou Qiuhe and Li Jie did not delay and officially opened in mid-July. When Xia Huanhuan was delivering goods to the restaurant, he asked Li Jie to go to the restaurant and take back their share. Therefore, the freshness of the ingredients must be better than that of other restaurants, even those long-established restaurants. The couple would get up at 2 or 3 in the morning, make dough, make stuffings, make steamed buns, cook mutton soup, make porridge, make tofu puffs, etc. At 5 or 6 o'clock, they would steam the steamed buns. Just set up the frying pan and start frying donuts and pancakes. Basically, if the people nearby get up early, around 6 or 7 o'clock, they will come to the store one after another, and some will eat in the store. Some just buy it and take it home for breakfast, with 2 fried donuts, 1 tofu puff, or white porridge, or 2 steamed buns and 1 porridge. The price is not expensive, but it is affordable and the taste is good. Small profit but quick turnover, hard work pays off, it can be regarded as a profitable business. After breakfast, there is lunch and dinner. The lunch and dinner are similar, which is mutton soup, mutton noodles with steamed buns or dumplings, steamed dumplings, and the like. Now that it's summer, Xia Huanhuan also suggested to them that they could set up a barbecue stall, grilled lamb skewers, vegetable skewers, etc., so that everyone could come out to enjoy the coolness and have a late-night snack. However, the occupancy rate was also good. Keeping food fresh in summer is also a problem. No matter how fresh the food is, it will start to deteriorate after being stored for a long time. After Zhou Qiuhe and Li Jie saw Xia Huanhuan's refrigerator, they decided to buy one too. For commercial purposes, the main thing is meat, wrapped dumplings, and other frozen items, so Xia Huanhuan bought a large freezer from Guangshi. It was cheaper than a refrigerator, costing 500 yuan, and placed it in a conspicuous place in the store. As a result, they also gained a livelihood selling popsicles. Thanks to the hard work, Zhou Qiuhe and Li Jie quickly established themselves in the capital city, and their profits in 1 month were a little better than in the county town, almost 3 months. More than 400. In September, Ying Huanhuan, Bao, and another little guy also successfully reported to middle school and elementary school and went to and from school together with Xiaowen, Xiaowu Beibei, and the triplets. In addition to the work in the store, Li Jie would also drive a dongfeng truck from time to time to Qingshui village to transport medicinal materials back to the city, or to the county to transport clothes back to the city, which was also a source of income. Zhou Qiuhe let Li Jie watch the store during the evening market. She went to places with stalls to sell clothes and so on. The weather was getting hotter and hotter in July and August, and Xia Huanhuan's belly was getting bigger and bigger. Fortunately, she can make ice in her space, so even though there is no air conditioning in the room, it is not too difficult just to have a fan and large chunks of ice. This time I was probably pregnant with a single child, so my belly wasn't that big. Even so, I still felt sore and backache after standing for a while. Li Zhan would help her massage every night, and in the evening when it was not so hot, he would help her walk around outside. Naturally, she does not need to do the housework at home. As early as spring, in addition to Chen Yan, another aunt was found to help. This aunt was still the eldest sister who used to help Rong Zhenbang and Shen Wanxue's family. Shen Wanxue saw that her life was difficult, so she asked her to come over to help. In addition, Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru also came back from Guangzhou after celebrating the New Year, and Shen Wanxue was still taking care of them, so Xia Huanhuan didn't feel tired at all during her pregnancy. In addition, she basically replaced the water she drank at home with water from the spiritual spring in space, so she is in good health. By the beginning of August, both the Fu family and he agreed that Xia Huanhuan should be hospitalized to wait for delivery. Although Xia Huanhuan felt that they were making a fuss, she still obeyed and was admitted to the hospital. In this way, the family members would take turns coming to stay with her in bed. Fu Nanjing and Yu Siju also came to check on her every day. Anyway, they were taken care of in every detail. On August 18th, Xia Huanhuan began to feel stomach pains, and Li Zhan happened to be in bed with her, so she quickly called the doctor. After checking the situation, the obstetrician and gynecologist kicked Li Zhan out. "You guys, wait outside. Your wife is going to give birth." Li Zhan was extremely anxious, but he had no choice but to go out obediently. It happened that Xiao Wen and Xiao Wu came over to deliver food, and Li Zhan immediately ordered, "You two, hurry up and tell your family that your mother is going to give birth." When Xiao Wen and Xiao Wu heard this, they gave Li Zhan the lunchbox and ran away immediately. Then I left the hospital, got on my bicycle, and went to report the news. Xia Huanhuan's heartbreaking shouts also came from the delivery room. Li Zhan felt distressed and anxious at the same time. When the nurse came out, he quickly asked what was going on and if everything was okay. Seeing how anxious he was, the nurse smiled and said, "Don't worry, the fetal position is upright and nothing will happen." At this time, Fu Nanjing and Yu Siju both rushed over and asked anxiously, "How's it going? Are you pregnant?" After a while, Shen Wan, Xuerong Jinbang, Xia Shuangshan, Lin Yuru, Yang Qiushi and the children at home rushed over, and Fu Weixin also pushed in Mr. Fu's wheelchair. "Li Zhan, how about Huanhuan?" Fu Weixin asked anxiously. "Dad, hasn't Mom given birth to the little sister yet?" Li Zhan shook his head and said, "The nurse's fetal position is correct, but she hasn't been born yet." Just as he was saying this, a loud cry of "Wawa" suddenly came from the delivery room. "It's born! It's born!"
Great.
"Is it a boy or a girl?" Soon a nurse came out and said with a smile, "It's born. Mother and daughter are safe." When everyone heard that it was a girl, they were taller than the boy. "Prosper. Girl? That's great. It's better to be a girl," Fu Weixin said happily. During Xia Huanhuan's generation, the Fu family had many men, but Xia Huanhuan had only one daughter, who had been living outside for more than 20 years. Therefore, Fu Weixin has always felt guilty for his daughter. Correspondingly, he prefers his granddaughter and hopes to make up for what he owes his daughter to his granddaughters. Other patients passing by were so happy to see this family that they thought they had a grandson. When they asked if it was a daughter, they were very puzzled. What's so exciting about having a daughter? Really? Fortunately, the passerby was just mumbling in his heart. Otherwise, he would have been stared at by the whole family and run away in shame. Li Zhan asked excitedly, "Comrade nurse, can I go in to see my wife and daughter?" The nurse smiled and said, "Go in, but don't make too much noise." Before the voice fell, Li Zhan couldn't wait to go in. The triplets also wanted to go in. Li Zhan said seriously, "You are not allowed to make noise and disturb your sister. I will let you in." The triplets immediately nodded and said, "Dad, we are not 3-year-old children. We won't make noise."
Li Zhan smilat, okay.
1 big and 3 small went in first, and the others waited outside and waited for Xia Huanhuan to be transferred to the general ward before seeing her. Xia Huanhuan was lying on the bed with sweat all over her body, holding a small baby in her arms who couldn't open his eyes.
Mom.
"Where is my sister? We want to see her." The triplets were quite obedient. Although they looked expectant and anxious, they still spoke in a low voice. Seeing these 3 naughty kids, Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but look up at Li Zhan and said with a smile, "Why did they come in too?" The triplets immediately said, "Mom, we won't make a fuss. We want to see our sister." As they said that, the 3 little heads leaned over to look at the baby in Xia Huanhuan's arms. It wouldn't be a big deal if they saw it, but the 3 little guys were a little
shocked.
This sister. Why is she a little ugly? Her face is wrinkled like the little old lady at the door of the alley? The triplets looked at each other and couldn't help but whispered. Could it be that they took the wrong baby? It's just. The 3 of us are so good looking. Our sister shouldn't be outshined by the fat little sister next door. Do you want to remind your parents? Li Zhen. Xia Huanhuan. Your parents heard it. Li Zhan. You little brats. How dare you talk about your sister like that? This is your sister, for sure. The triplets looked up at Li Zhan, then at Xia Huanhuan, then sighed, and began to comfort their parents. Mom, don't be discouraged, your sister is still very pretty. Yeah, Mom. In fact, even if she can't compare to Xiaopong's sister, it's okay. We three brothers will definitely protect her well. That's right. Who dares to say our sister is ugly? Before Yao Yao could finish his words, Yan Yan and Ye covered his mouth together. The word ugly is too hurtful. Dad, Mom. In short, don't lose heart. If it doesn't work, have another one. Li Zhen. Xia Huanhuan. Li Zhan held his forehead and said helplessly, Wake up. You three stop joking. All newborn babies are like this. When you were just born, you were uglier than your sister. The triplets couldn't help but be stunned when they heard it. No way? We are so handsome now. How could we be ugly when we were just born? Li Zhan didn't want to talk to these three little light bulbs and said, Okay, my sister has seen it too. You go out first, otherwise you will wake up my sister. Yao Yao said, But I haven't held my sister yet. I'll let you hold her later. Be obedient and go out first. Li Zhan sent the little light bulbs out in no time. He, as a father, hasn't held them yet. Li Zhan looked at his wife with infinite tenderness and saw that her hair was soaked with sweat and stuck to her forehead, and he felt very distressed. Huanhuan, thank you for your hard work. I'm sorry I can't help you at all. Xia Huanhuan smiled. You know I've worked hard, so treat me better in the future. Li Zhan said seriously, That's natural. As he said that, he stretched out his hand and picked up the daughter he had been thinking about day and night. Come, my baby girl, let daddy hug you. Xia Huanhuan looked at her daughter with a wrinkled face and couldn't help sighing. Oh, I don't know if she can grow up in the future. Li Zhan held her carefully, fearing that he would use too much strength and hurt his daughter. He smiled and said, Don't worry. With our looks, our daughter can't be ugly. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but roll her eyes at him and said with a smile, You just know how to flatter yourself. Don't you see how old you are? Li Zhan looked up at her unconvinced and smiled. How old are you? You can still have 70 or 80 more children with you. Xia Huanhuan's cheeks flushed instantly, and she spat. Aren't you ashamed? People outside will hear it. As she said that, the nurse came in and moved her from the delivery room to the general ward. The whole family gathered in the single ward, taking turns to look at the newborn. However, they were afraid that everyone would hold the baby and wake the baby up, so in the end only Grandpa Fu, Shen Wanxue, and Lin Yiru were allowed to hold the baby, and the others just looked at it. Grandpa Fu was so happy that he couldn't stop smiling and said, Great. I have another great-granddaughter. That's great. Shen Wanxue was also so happy that she kept wiping tears. When Xia Huanhuan gave birth to triplets, she was still in Qingshui village, and it was not convenient for her to go to the county hospital to see the baby. Moreover, she didn't know that the triplets were her grandchildren at that time, so now she can hold her newborn granddaughter in her own hands, which can be regarded as compensation. After everyone watched excitedly for a while, Fu Nanjing said with a smile, Everyone, go back after watching. Huanhuan is tired too. There will be plenty of opportunities to watch in the future, right? Everyone left. Shen Wanxue and Lin Yiru wanted to stay to take care of Huanhuan, but they were rejected by Li Zhan. He stayed to accompany his wife. Moms, it is Huanhuan who is basically the one who is working hard to give birth to a daughter. As a husband, I should definitely pay more attention to the confinement. You all should take a rest. I am here and will definitely take good care of Huanhuan. Lin Yiru and Shen Wanxue believed this. Seeing that the young couple was so affectionate and wanted to be alone, the two mothers certainly couldn't be so tactful as to stay and be a light bulb. Lin Yiru smiled and said, Okay, then I'll leave Huanhuan to you. I'll go back and make chicken soup. I'll ask your father to bring it to Huanhuan later. Shen Wanxue also said, I'll also ask Lao Yang to prescribe some medicine tonics, and I'll bring them to you later. As they talked, they dispersed. Xia Huanhuan stayed in the hospital for another 2 or 3 days before going back. Li Zhan was relieved to see that everyone had left, and then suddenly came over and kissed Xia Huanhuan on the lips. Xia Huanhuan was startled by him and quickly covered her mouth and smiled. Don't you consider the occasion? What if the nurse sees it? Besides, I'm sweating all over now and you don't mind it. Really? Li Zhan smiled and said, My own wife. Why should I dislike it? However, I forgot that you must feel uncomfortable with all the sweat on your body, my wife. Lie down for a while. I'll get some hot water and wipe it for you. As he said that, he took the thermos and wash basin out and came back in a short while. Li Zhan soaked a new towel and came over to help her wipe it. Xia Huanhuan still felt a little embarrassed, but she had just given birth and almost used all her strength to suckle. Now her hands and feet were numb, so she didn't act pretentiously. While enjoying Li Zhan's massage and wiping, she asked, Well, by the way, what do you think is a good name for our daughter? Li Zhan scratched his head and said with a smile, You have stumped me. I am a rough man. How can I keep the name I gave? When my daughter grows up, she will scold me for giving her a random name. However, I have thought of a nickname, and I won't change it no matter who says it. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help laughing after hearing this. Oh, then tell me, what is the nickname? Li Zhan smiled confidently. Let's call her Jiao Jiao. From now on, she will be our little Jiao Jiao. No one is allowed to bully her. Xia Huanhuan pursed her lips and smiled. It's okay. At least it sounds like a girl's name. Fortunately, it doesn't mean reform or opening up. Li Zhan looked at her and couldn't help but smile guiltily and said, How do you know I thought of these 2 names? I was thinking that if she was still a boy, I would call her Reform. Xia Huanhuan. Luckily, it's a girl. Otherwise, the son will complain about his parents naming him randomly when he grows up. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, Okay, then I'll follow your nickname and call her Jiao Jiao. As for the full name, let's use the word star from Yan Yan and the others in the middle. So how about calling her Xinghe? Li Zhan thought for a while and said Xinghe good. Our daughter was born in summer, and the Milky Way in the sky is the most beautiful at night in summer, so calling her Xinghe fits the scene perfectly. What's more, the triplets are all of the fire element, and the daughter is of the water element, which is good. Xia Huanhuan didn't expect that Li Zhan would immediately understand that he took Xinghe to mean the stars and the Milky Way at night, and couldn't help but smile and said, I didn't expect that you could have such a romantic association, but I guessed it right. I thought so too. Li Zhan said goodbye to Xia Huanhuan and said with a smile, Don't think that your man is really a rough guy just because he says he is a rough guy. We are not ambiguous about the things that should be as careful as hair. Xia Huanhuan nodded and said with a smile, Yes, Mr. Li knows romance. The daughter's name was finally decided. When Shen Wanxue came to deliver chicken soup, Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan told Shen Wanxue about it. Shen Wanxue also understood it instantly and immediately thought of the Milky Way, laughing said, Rome Xinghe, born in the year of water, exactly complements the names of my 3 brothers. What a good name. This must have started gradually, right? Xia Huanhuan nodded sheepishly. Shen Wanxue smiled and said, I knew Li Zhan would never be able to come up with such a delicate and majestic name. Li Zhan smiled at the side and said, Mom, I am your biological son. No matter how much you love your daughter-in-law, you can't bury your son like this, right? The nickname Jiao Jiao was given by me. Shen Wanxue smiled and said, Jiao Jiao is very common. Whose daughter is not a little girl. However, the bright Milky Way crosses the Magpie Bridge. Even though they have the same pronunciation and different words, they still have an origin. Therefore, it is mainly better to start gradually. While he was talking, Jiao Jiao woke up and couldn't help crying. Li Zhan hurried over and hugged him, looked at the little one in his arms nervously, and said with a smile, Jiao Jiao, don't cry. Are you hungry? Dad tells you, from now on you will be called Jiao Jiao, and your real name will be Xinghe. Shen Wanxue came over and said with a smile, Go and feed your wife some chicken soup. Let me hold my granddaughter. You don't look good at holding her. Li Zhan laughed twice, handed his daughter to Shen Wanxue, filled the chicken soup from the thermos cup, scooped up a large chicken drumstick, picked off the meat with a spoon, and brought it to Xia Huanhuan's mouth. Xia Huanhuan was extremely embarrassed and said in a low voice, "I'll do it by myself, our mother looks good." Shen Wanxue smiled and said, "Huan, don't worry about me. Mom is someone who has been through this before. For us women, it takes almost half of our lives to give birth to a child. We must not work too hard in the month after giving birth, otherwise we'll suffer from lifelong illnesses." The men did nothing and got their sons and daughters for nothing, so it's time to pay more attention now. Li Zhan also smiled and said, "Listen to Mom and come and eat some chicken." Xia Huanhuan opened her mouth and ate the meat and chicken soup with both shame and sweetness in her heart. After staying in the hospital for a few days, Xia Huanhuan returned to the courtyard. However, Li Zhan specifically asked for leave and still took good care of her Yu. In addition, Chen Yan and Su Ma did all the housework at home, including changing Jiao's diapers and peeing, and Lin Yuru and Shen Wanxue also helped to make Xia Huanhuan breastfeed. The family would stew tofu and Crucian carp soup every now and then, or stew pig trotters with soybeans. Xia Huanhuan was also successful. Within a few days, the milk came down, and after all, she had fed the triplets before, and there was still some milk from time to time. It was too late for Jiao to drink. Jiao had milk to drink and was taken care of by the whole family. She only had to eat and sleep every day, and she was getting stronger as she grew older. A full moon banquet was held at Yuanxiang residence, and both the upper and lower floors were booked. In addition to the courtyard and the Fu family, there were also Fu Nanjing, Yu Siju, Li Jie, Zhou Qiuhe, Li Zhan's eldest sister Li Zhaodi, and An Qi of the Qi family. Ning Yu, Dahe, several brothers, and everyone in Yuanxiangju also ate together, and the excitement was extremely lively. Even Luo Cheng happened to return to the capital recently, and Fu Nanjing also invited him over. After asking, I found out that Luo Cheng had already married a wife in Shanghai City. In the past few years after the opening up, because his parents were getting older, his focus had shifted to Shanghai City, and it was rare to come back to Beijing City. When Li Zhan saw Luo Cheng, he couldn't help but whisper to Xia Huanhuan, "It's true, third brother. Why did you bring Luo Cheng here for nothing? It's not like I don't know what Luo Cheng is thinking about you." Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but laugh and said, "Luo Cheng is already married and has a son. How can you still be so petty? Besides, how many years has it been? I am old, so you can still like me." After hearing this, Li Zhan took Xia Huanhuan into his arms and held him in his arms regardless of the crowd, and said with a smile, "Who said you are old? With me, you will always be 20, when I first met you." Xia Huanhuan pushed him, gritted his teeth, and said with a smile, "Okay, stop being poor. Hurry to entertain the guests." Xia Huanhuan said, and took Li Zhan to toast Luo Cheng. "First, it's been a long time since we last met, and Luo Cheng has come a long way. Second, she might be able to cooperate with Luo Cheng in the future." Luo Cheng looked at them come over, stand up, hold the wine glass, and smile. "Congratulations." Li Zhan smiled and said, "Thank you." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "What about you? I heard from my third brother that your second child is about to be born?" Luo Cheng smiled, nodded, and said, "It's been 6 months. She should give birth in November." Xia Huanhuan raised the cup and said with a smile, "Then I'll congratulate you in advance." Luo Cheng smiled and said, "How can that be done? I was also thinking about inviting you and Li Zhan to attend the full moon party for my second son. Now, congratulations in advance. I don't recognize it." Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan both laughed. Luo Cheng suddenly said seriously again, "There is one more thing. I also want to thank you, Huanhuan. Thank you for helping Dahe and the others a lot over the years. Dahe has been following me for many years. In the past few years, my development focus has been on Shanghai and the South. I used to ask him to help me. He didn't want to leave home, and I didn't take good care of him. I just heard Dahe say, 'Are you planning to open an electrical appliance store and make him the store manager?' Also, was he introduced to you by you?" Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "The man is reliable. Otherwise, I wouldn't dare ask him for help. The progress between Dahe and Qi Ningyu is still very smooth. Qi Ningyu has a relatively quiet temperament, while Dahe is more open-minded and a bit of a ruffian. If nothing happens, he will ride his 28-year-old bar to come to Qi Ningyu for a walk and hang out. In the park, take a boat ride, eat sesame cakes or something. Qi Jian didn't agree at first. After all, no matter how poor the Qi family was, their ancestors were once landlords. Not to mention how rich the family was, a 3 Heyuan house would be worth it.
Yes.
What about Dahe? The 7 or 8 members of his family are crowded into 2 bungalows in the courtyard. There are so many younger brothers and sisters below that he needs to take care of. The 2 brothers and 1 sister above him are making money. Don't worry, he comes to Qiufeng every now and then. Dahe is also a person who values loyalty. He just lends money, and he doesn't even know if he has any money left in his hands. He wants his daughter to marry him. Are the whole family crowded into those 2 houses? Do you want to just get a bed and draw a curtain? She had a stubborn temper and was really attracted to Dahe. Her father said nothing, and she insisted on getting along with Dahe, so she started a cold war with her own father. After all, Xia Huanhuan was only half an introducer. The father and daughter were in such a quarrel that they had to go to the house to persuade him. He also asked Dahe to be more diligent and buy some fruits and candies. He also visited Qi Jian's house from time to time, which could be regarded as easing the relationship. If Dahe can eat well in the alley, he will naturally get into trouble, but he is also sincere, so he would go to Qi's house every now and then. At first, Qi Jian insisted on sweeping people out with a broom, but Dahe couldn't bear it. Annoyed, "You kick me out today, but I'll come back tomorrow." Qi Jian also has a bad temper, and his daughter is inside and outside. Later, Dahe became a frequent visitor to Qi's house, sweeping the floor, carrying water, and repairing the roof. It was all Dahe's fault. Qi Jian saw Dahe standing on the ladder repairing the broken tiles from a distance, while his daughter was holding the ladder below, and said worriedly, "Be careful. Don't fall down," and suddenly felt a little dazed. If nothing happened to his own son, the one standing on the ladder now should be his son, right? Qi Jian's old eyes turned red for a moment, looking at his daughter and this honest and capable young man from a distance repairing the roof. The westward sunlight shone through the branches of the ginkgo tree in the yard, making his gray hair look like it was rimmed with gold. That night, Qi Jian sighed. Early tomorrow morning, Dahe was called to his home. After hearing this, Dahe was extremely nervous. He specially asked Xia Huanhuan to pick out a new set of clothes to wear. In addition to women's clothing, the clothing store now they also started selling men's clothing. Xia Huanhuan didn't choose anything fashionable for him. After all, the old man still had a conservative vision, so he only wore simple white shirts and coarse trousers, which were neat and tidy. Then he followed Qi Ningyu to Qi's house. Although Dahe would go to the future father-in-law every now and then to show his presence, he was thick-skinned and went there on his own initiative. The future father-in-law had always ignored him. This time, the future father-in-law asked to see him in person. Could he not be nervous? When Qi Jian saw him coming, he nodded to the chair beside him and said, "Sit down. Dad, don't be so serious." Qi Ningyu felt sorry for Dahe and couldn't help but said angrily. Qi Jian gave his daughter a serious look and said, "You girls are talking, please don't interrupt." As he said that, he looked at Dahe seriously and said, "These days you come over to work at home from time to time. I also know what you are thinking. You just want to marry Ningyu, right?" Dahe's back shuddered. He subconsciously stopped his posture and said seriously, "Yes. Uncle Qi, I know you are afraid that I am unreliable, but I have made a lot of money in these years with Sister Warner. Although my family also relies on me for support, I have my own concerns, and I am saving money for myself. I have been looking for a house and have found a suitable one. Although the yard is a little small, it is still clean. I should be able to buy it after I save money for a few more months. When I buy the house, I will propose to you. Uncle Qi, don't worry. I will definitely not let Ningyu squeeze into our 2 small houses with me." Qi Jian didn't expect that this kid, who usually looks like a cynical ruffian, actually has his own concerns. How can it be so easy to buy a house? You have to find one with a yard, which will cost at least several thousand or tens of thousands of yuan. How can you have so much money? Dahe laughed twice and said, "It's not enough. I have to save for some time." Qi Jian waved his hand and said, "Let us not talk about the house for now. If you really like Ningyu, I have only one request. If you want to get married, move to this courtyard and live here. I won't say anything about whether you marry into the family or not. When you have children in the future, they will still take your surname. If you can afford to buy a house, you can move out. In short, my daughter, Qi Jian, can't be squeezed in those two houses of your family and suffer grievances." Qi Ningyu and Dahe were stunned for a moment. They both still had the impression that Qi Jian was an old stubborn man who had a stern face and didn't look at Dahe well all day long and had not agreed to their affairs. Qi Ningyu reacted immediately, grabbed her father's arm in surprise, and asked, "Dad, you agree?" Qi Jian glared at Qi Ningyu hatefully and said, "My daughter is in a cold war with your father every day because of this brat. If I don't agree, I will lose my daughter." Qi Ningyu couldn't help but laugh coquettishly. "Dad, look at what you said. Can your daughter be the kind of person who forgets her father after marrying a man?" As she said this, she looked at Dahe with both joy and worry. Although Qi Jian had just said that he didn't want Dahe to marry into her family, the customary rule was that the woman had to marry into the man's family. After Qi Jian asked them to get married, Dahe moved to the Qi family to live. Even if he didn't marry into the family, the neighbors in the alley would still gossip about him. Qi Ningyu was worried that Dahe was too proud to care about these things, so she didn't agree. Her father had finally given in. If Dahe got angry and didn't agree, she would be caught in the middle. Unexpectedly, Dahe was not angry. He scratched his head with some happiness and embarrassment and confirmed, "Uncle Qi, do you really agree to my marriage with Ningyu? You won't regret it?" Qi Jian was also observing him and heard what he said, "A gentleman's word is as good as his bond. How can there be any reason to regret it?" Dahe jumped up happily and said, "Uncle Qi, as long as you agree to marry Ningyu to me, I can live anywhere. I also feel that the 2 rooms in my house are shabby. I originally thought that I could either save money for a while, buy a house, and then get married, or get married first, rent a house outside, and buy one later. Uncle Qi, you are willing to let us live here, and I am taking advantage of it." Qi Jian was quite surprised to see that he had no emotions. Like Qi Ningyu, he was actually a little unsure before he spoke, fearing that Dahe would run away in anger, and then his daughter would hate him to death. Now that Dahe agreed, he was relieved. Dahe then said seriously, "But Uncle Qi, don't worry. I will definitely buy a house for Ningyu and build our own little home. I have no future in this life. I just want a wife and children, a warm bed, and a prosperous life." Qi Jian nodded and said, "It's naturally good that you are willing to make progress." When Qi Ningyu and Dahe were alone together, Dahe immediately hugged Qi Ningyu and kissed her. Qi Ningyu shyly pushed him away and said angrily, You are a bully." Dahe laughed and said, "Uncle Qi has agreed. You will be my wife in the future. How can I bully you? Don't worry, not only will I not bully you, I will never let others bully you." Qi Ningyu couldn't help but roll his eyes at him and then asked, "Hey,
You.
are you really not unhappy? My dad asked us to live in the Qi family after we get married. Outsiders will laugh at us. And your family, will they agree?" Dahe looked at Qi Ningyu and said seriously, "It would be a lie to say that I have no resistance in my heart." However, Dahe continued, "I also know about your eldest brother's affairs. There are only you and Uncle Qi in the family. Since I am going to marry you, it must be my responsibility as a son-in-law to take care of Uncle Qi in his old age and see him to the end of his life. Uncle Qi let us live here because he was worried about you. Anyway, Uncle Qi also said that we will move out after buying a house, so it's not a problem. I told my family, don't worry." Qi Ningyu looked at Dahe, and somehow her nose felt a little sour. Dahe was usually popular, and he had some cynicism of a gangster. She was actually worried about whether he could be trusted, but this worry couldn't stop her from liking him. Now listening to Dahe's words, It turned out that although he didn't say it on the surface, he had actually thought about their future life in his heart. He didn't even object to her father's retirement. Dahae, you are so good to me, Chi Ningyu said with a sob. Dahae came over and kissed her and smiled. Silly, you are my wife. If I don't treat you well, who can I treat well? Chi Ningyu shyly pushed him away. We haven't gotten married yet. Dahae laughed and said, Isn't that simple? Uncle Chi has agreed. I can't wait to marry you tomorrow. Dahae and Chi Ningyu's marriage was settled a month later. Dahae's parents didn't agree with Dahae living in his father-in-law's house at first, as they thought it was embarrassing. Dahae didn't want to spoil his father, and said, Dad, don't jump up and down here and say you don't agree. I haven't told you the situation in our family, but don't you know it yourself? With only these 2 houses, how do you plan to let us live when I marry a daughter-in-law? Or, do you have the money to build 2 houses for us? If you can, Uncle Chi is not an unreasonable person. I will definitely marry my daughter-in-law to you. But can you? Even the houses of the eldest and second brothers were bought with part of the money, right? Dahae's father was so embarrassed that his face turned red and his neck became thick. After a long time, he said, At worst, I won't marry his daughter. Isn't it just relying on having a house and some money? Dahae was unhappy when he heard it. Dad,
What are you talking about?
our family is extremely poor, and we brothers have found our own wives. If I don't marry Ningyu, can you find me a better one? Dahae's father was so angry that he couldn't speak. Dahae stood up and said, I didn't come back to discuss with you. I just wanted to inform you. Originally, I was planning to buy a yard and move out after getting married. Now I'm just staying at my father-in-law's house for a while. Dad, don't worry. I won't be afraid of you, my mother and my brothers and sisters. From now on, my son and your grandson will change their surnames to Chi. Now that I've said this, it's up to you whether you agree or not. After saying that, he didn't say anything else, just greeted his mother and brothers and sisters, said that he had work to do, and left. Dahae and Chi Ningyu came together to give Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan the good news. Xia Huanhuan was still in confinement and smiled. This is a happy event. Do you plan to hold the wedding banquet at home or in a hotel? Dahae laughed and said, Sister Huanhuan, look at what you said. My uncle Chi is the consultant and shopkeeper of Yuanxiangju. If I dare to say that it is not held in Yuanxiangju, he will be angry with me. Xia Huanhuan pursed her lips and smiled. That's true. I'll give you a 50% discount when the time comes. Dahae listened and shook his head quickly, saying, Sister Huanhuan, no need. I have reserved the money for the wedding banquet in advance. It is enough. Xia Huanhuan insisted, I have a relationship with your Uncle Chi. How can I not use it? I am counting on you to work hard to open the electrical appliance store after you get married. You should save the money you saved to buy a house. Dahae listened and chuckled twice, saying, Thank you, Sister Huanhuan. There is one more thing we would like to trouble Sister Huanhuan and Brother Li Zhan. Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan listened, looked at each other, and smiled. What's the matter? So serious? Dahae laughed and said, That's right. We want to ask Sister Huanhuan and Brother Li Zhan to be our witnesses. Is that okay? Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan laughed and said, Why not? If you are willing, we will definitely agree. More than a month later, Dahae and Chi Ningyu held their wedding at Yuanxiangju. Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan served as witnesses and also gave speeches on stage. In November, the Electrical Appliance City opened. The house of the Electrical Appliance City was also bought by Xia Huanhuan. Because it sells electrical appliances, she bought a 2-story bungalow, which is bigger than the clothing store and Yuanxiangju and costs 20,000 yuan. Xia Huanhuan was a little short of cash, so she used a piece of gold to buy it. After buying the house, she still asked Li Jie and Wu Feng to come and decorate it. Now Li Jie and Wu Feng are still helping Xia Huanhuan with the transportation company. In addition to transporting clothing, they also take on some other factory or private work. In her spare time, she would do some decoration work. Now that the Electrical Appliance City has opened, the first electrical appliances must have been purchased by Xia Huanhuan from Chun Rongxing in Guangshi through the space. However, her daughter had just been born, and she had to go to Beijing University to complete her studies and take care of her daughter. Therefore, she also handed over the subsequent purchase of goods to Dahe, asking Dahe to follow Li Jie or Wu Feng's car to Guangshi, contact Qin Rongxing, and directly bring the goods back to the store. In addition to purchasing goods from Qin Rongxing, Xia Huanhuan also asked Dahe to visit large electrical appliance factories such as Beijing, Shanghai, and Hangzhou, and obtained a lot of agency rights. Many factories were even willing to deliver goods directly to the store, which also saved a lot of transportation costs. The electrical appliances sold in the Electrical Appliance City are of good quality and low price, and the key is the good after-sales service. Not only do they deliver goods to the door, but they are also responsible for installation. If they are broken, they will also replace or repair them. The service is much better than that of other state-owned shopping malls. Therefore, it quickly became famous, and there were endless customers every day. As the store manager, Xia Huanhuan gave Dahe a lot of autonomy and even gave him 10% of his shares. The employees in the store were all brothers who used to work with Dahe. How could these younger brothers know how to install and repair these electrical appliances? Dahe was not vague. After asking Xia Huanhuan for instructions, he took the lead in finding the master of the electrical appliance manufacturer and opened a tutoring class for him to learn how to install and repair. Seeing that the boss followed him, the younger brothers followed suit, so why not follow suit? It was hard for these alley walkers to learn so well that they could be half professionals. Seeing that Dahe did a good job, Xia Huanhuan was relieved. When it came to dividends, Dahe was given 5,000 yuan at once. With a large dividend, Dahe naturally worked harder. By the summer of the second year, he had saved enough money to buy a small courtyard in the alley near the Qi family's courtyard and moved there with Qi Ningyu. In the courtyard, Dahe also arranged a room for Qi Jian, but Qi Jian was a little stubborn and refused to move over to trouble them, so Dahe and Qi Ningyu gave up. Anyway, in a few years, they would definitely take him over so that they could take care of him. It was similar for Li Jie and Wu Feng. Although they were transporting their own things, most of them were transporting clothes and electrical appliances from Guangzhou to Beijing. However, Xia Huanhuan still used modern company management methods. Ding is Ding, Mao is Mao, and the clothing store and the electrical appliance city all had to pay transportation fees to the transportation company, which was the income of the transportation company. In addition, there was income from transportation work for other people. After deducting the cost, Xia Huanhuan also gave Li Jie and Wu Feng 10% and 8% of the profit respectively. After a year, there were several thousand yuan. The remaining profit was accumulated in the account. When there was enough money, they would buy new trucks. If there were more transportation vehicles and a larger scale, they would be able to take on other large-scale transportation business in the future. However, Xia Huanhuan is not in a hurry to expand. After all, it has only been open for a few years and does not need such a large scale. Xia Huanhuan tries to leave time for Jiao Jiao and her family. As for business matters, at most she will check the major policies and then check the accounts at the end of the year. The people she found, Li Jie, Dahe, Qi Ningyu, are all trustworthy, so there is nothing to worry about. Soon it will be the Chinese New Year again. Jiao Jiao is more than 5 months old, and she has grown up a long time ago. She is delicate and beautiful, with 2 big eyes. She grins when she sees people she knows, which melts people's hearts. This little guy is the darling of the family. Li Zhan sighs every day, and he can't hold her for a while even if he wants to. After finally grabbing a moment, Shen Wanxue came over and took Jiao Jiao away. "You are a grown man. How can you take care of a child? Let me hold her." However, just after Shen Wanxue held her for a while, Rong Zhenbang also came over. "Wife, let me hold her for a while. You are so tired." The triplets followed behind, looking up eagerly, and said, "Grandma, it's our turn to hold her. We want to hold Jiao Jiao." From time to time, Grandpa Fu would bring his guards to stay for a few days, and he would also rush to hold Jiao Jiao. Even Fu Weixin, who has always been very introverted, now often comes here to have dinner and play with his granddaughter. Li Zhan saw that she was obviously his daughter, but He couldn't even hold her warmly, so he was very amused. At night, he couldn't help to tossing Xia Huanhuan in bed. Wife, how about we have another daughter? Jiao Jiao is too popular. I can't even have one. Xia Huanhuan was amused and speechless. She punched him and said, "Forget that your daughter is still breastfeeding? If you dare to mess around, I will stop breastfeeding. Do you think the whole family will scold you unanimously?" Li Zhan thought about it, and it was right. If Xia Huanhuan got pregnant again, in order to ensure the nutrition of the baby in her belly, her milk would definitely stop. Therefore, she had to temporarily put aside her thoughts and use the rubber product obediently. However, Xia Huanhuan calculated the time. In fact, the family planning policy has been gaining momentum since last year. If she really wants to have another child later, it may not be so easy. However, she and Li Zhan have a son and a daughter, so there is nothing to regret. On the night of New Year's Eve, it snowed heavily. Xia Huanhuan built a coal stove in the house. The fire was burning vigorously. Everyone ate dumplings around the stove, and there was a large table of New Year's Eve dinner. After dinner, there were melon seeds, white rabbit milk candies, and fried peanuts. A full fruit plate was placed on the ground. Everyone gathered around to eat melon seeds and chat. The TV was on, but the first Spring Festival Gala had not yet been held, so there was nothing to watch. Everyone focused on talking. After talking for a while, everyone went back to sleep. The next morning, the triplets, Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei were the first to get up. They all wore new clothes and went to each room to pay New Year's greetings. This was also a rule set by Xia Huanhuan. It was different for other days, but every New Year's Day, everyone in the family, including Chen Yan and Aunt Wang, had to buy new clothes, which was also a new look for the new year. Aunt Wang was the aunt who had worked as a maid in the Rong family before. Now there was a little kid at home, and Lin Yuru and Shen Wanxue were not young anymore, so most of the housework was left to Chen Yan and Aunt Wang. Aunt Wang's children were all grown up and had started their own families, so they packed their bags and lived here. Since they live under the same roof, new clothes are a must. Xia Huanhuan runs a clothing store. How can her family not wear new clothes during the Chinese New Year? Not only in the courtyard, but also in the Fu family, Xia Huanhuan will personally deliver new cotton-padded clothes. Grandpa Fu and Fu Weixin said they didn't need them, thinking she was wasteful. But on the first day of the Chinese New Year, they had to wear the clothes sent by their granddaughter/daughter neatly. This year, Jiao Jiao was born. Xia Huanhuan made a bright red down jacket for her. After Jiao Jiao put it on, her face looked even pinker and tenderer. When she smiled, her two dimples warmed people's hearts. Perhaps she heard the voices of her brothers in the yard. Jiao Jiao was so anxious that she kept leaning over to the bed, and she kept making sounds from time to time, trying to attract the attention of her brothers. While dressing her, Li Zhan could not help but scold and laughed. "Three little rascals, you only know how to use your New Year's money to buy firecrackers to play with." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Not only firecrackers, but also rice cakes, egg rolls, and fruit leather. Nowadays, there are more and more types of snacks." A small shop opened at the entrance of the alley, selling popsicles in summer and various snacks in winter. It is simply a paradise for children. As they were talking, the triplets came in. "Mom, Dad, our sister hasn't dressed yet? We're carrying her to pay New Year's greetings." Xia Huanhuan glared at them and said with a smile, "Do you think Mom and Dad don't know that you're planning to take all of our sister's New Year's money for yourselves?" The triplets couldn't help but smile guiltily when they heard this and said, "Mom, look at what you said.
We
are planning to save it for our sister first. When our sister grows up and becomes sensible, we'll buy her lots of snacks." Xia Huanhuan chuckled twice. "Your abacus beads are well placed, but it's a pity that they're useless. However, if you can get first place in the final exam next semester, your dad and I will give you a large reward. How about it?" The triplets were a little dejected after hearing the first half of the sentence, but they immediately perked up after hearing the second half. "Mom, are you serious? How much reward will you give us first?" Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "How about $5 each?" When the triplets heard this, Their eyes lit up. $5. Adults only earn $30 or $40 a month. If converted to $3,000 or $4,000, it would be equivalent to the purchasing power of $500. Mom, you keep your word. No, there is only one first place. How do we three calculate it? Doesn't that mean only one person can get it? Xia Huanhuan said, if you can take the top 3 places, the first place will get $5, the second place will get $4, and the third place will get $3. That should be fine, right? Why not? The triplets were full of energy. Mom, just wait to pay. As they were talking, there was a knock on the door. Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan were puzzled. On the first day of the Chinese New Year, people usually visit relatives within the family, so why is there a knock on the door so early in the morning? Li Zhan didn't let Xia Huanhuan go out and got up to open the door. A man in his 40s or 50s and a woman of about the same age were standing outside, holding some gifts in their hands. Li Zhan didn't recognize him, so he asked suspiciously, "Who are you looking for?" The man glanced into the yard, and seeing such a neat courtyard, he couldn't help showing a little jealousy and distress in his eyes. However, he quickly covered it up and asked, "I'm looking for Yang Qiushi. He lives here, right?" Li Zhan was stunned for a moment. "Looking for Uncle Yang?
Who are you to him?
Why are you looking for him?" The man said quickly, I am his distant nephew.
My Yang Wenyuan.
We came here from Shanghai specially to wish my uncle a happy new year." Li Zhan was stunned for a moment. Didn't Uncle Yang have no relatives? How come a distant nephew suddenly appeared? The woman who came with the man saw that Li Zhan didn't say anything and said anxiously, "Is my uncle here? You don't want to hide him and don't want us to see him, do you?" Li Zhan heard her words were a bit harsh, and he couldn't help but look at the woman. Li Zhan has been a soldier for many years, and he is full of righteousness. Just one look at him. The woman was frightened and couldn't help but shudder. Yang Wenyuan also scolded in a low voice, "Shut up. Do you have the right to speak here?" The woman hid behind Yang Wenyuan, but still had an unconvinced expression. Li Zhan said, "Uncle Yang lives here. You come in first. Yan Yan, go and call Grandpa Yang over and say someone is looking for him." When Yan Yan heard the task assigned by her father, she immediately ran to Yang Qiushi's room in the backyard to call for help. Yang Wenyuan and the woman looked at the house and the furnishings in the house unscrupulously along the way, and couldn't help but smack their lips. This house is really good. It must be worth at least tens of thousands of dollars. After hearing what Yan Yan said, Yang Qiushi's face sank, so he put on his clothes and slowly walked to the front hall. Yang Wenyuan and the woman saw Yang Qiushi coming from a distance, and they immediately rushed out, knelt down with a thump, and shouted with sobs, "Uncle, I can see you. I am Wenyuan, and this is my wife. We wish you a happy new year." At this time, Xia Huanhuan also came out holding Jiao Jiao and could not help but look at Li Zhan. Xia Huanhuan remembered that her master seemed to have a distant nephew. When the policy was to return the Yang family's things, the several medicine shops in Shanghai were originally managed by the master's distant nephew, so Yang Qiushi did not take them back. He only renovated the several medicine shops in Beijing, the medicinal material planting and processing base in Yin province, and the medicine shops in several other cities, restocked them and opened them up. So much time has passed, and this distant nephew has not shown up, and it is unknown today. Why did Tian come here suddenly? Seeing that he had already knelt down, Xia Huanhuan quietly pulled Li Zhan, smiled, and said that they were going to Shen Wanqua's room to pay New Year's greetings, and then walked away. Since he was the master's distant nephew, it was more or less a family affair of the Yang family. Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan did not intend to participate, so they let Yang Qiushi negotiate on his own. However, they did not know what the two people's intentions were for suddenly appearing. It was not really to pay New Year's greetings, so they quietly asked the twins to keep an eye on them, and if anything happened, they would go and call them immediately. When they arrived at Shen Wanqua and Rong Zhenbang's room, Shen Wanqua first carried Jiao Jiao over, and then asked, "I heard the noise outside. Yan Yan just said that it was Lao Yang's distant nephew who came?" Xia Huanhuan nodded and said, "Yeah, it seems so. Rong Zhenbang was also happily teasing his granddaughter on the side and laughed sarcastically. I'm afraid he's here to ask for money. After hearing this, Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but look at each other. Xia Huanhuan asked, Dad, Mom, what's the matter with this distant nephew of my master? Rong Zhenbang said, In fact, this nephew is indeed of the Yang family's bloodline. He is from the lineage of the son born by an illegitimate wife of Old Yang's grandfather's brother. Old Yang calls him second grandpa. By Old Yang's generation, the relationship has become much more distant. Old Yang's great-grandfather divided the property of the medicine shop into two and gave it to Old Yang's grandfather and second grandfather. Later, his second grandfather's branch of the family business gradually went bankrupt, and the father of this distant nephew went to the Yang family and was later sent to Shanghai to manage the shop. Later, Old Yang suffered a disaster and had to go to the countryside. All the family property that should be confiscated was confiscated, and his distant nephew took advantage of the situation to occupy the shops in Shanghai. For so many years before the policy came down, I haven't seen them come to Old Yang so attentively to wish him a happy new year. After Rong Zhenbang's words, Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan probably understood. Yang Qiushi had no children, and in terms of bloodline, the only descendant of the Yang family was indeed this distant nephew. They might have other plans. Sure enough, after a while, Yi ran over and said, Dad, Mom, my grandpa Yang asked me to call you over. Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan hurried over. When Yang Qiushi saw them coming, he frowned and said seriously, I know your filial piety and good intentions. However, I am also old and Beijing is my home. If I go to Shanghai to live with you now, I will not be used to it. This is Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan, you just met them. I am living with them now, and they will take care of me in my old age and funeral. You don't have to worry about it. Yang Wenyuan and his wife heard this, and their faces showed anxious expressions. Uncle,
How can this be?
I am your nephew by blood after all, and you let outsiders take care of you in your old age and see you to the end of your life. This. Yang Qiushi became impatient and said coldly, It's not that I don't give you face. In the past few years, if you had come to see me once, I would have thought about it. We have been strangers for so many years, and I am afraid you must have said a lot of bad things about me in Shanghai. Let you take care of me in my old age and see me to the end of my life? I am afraid I will not die well. After hearing this, Yang Wenyuan and his wife's faces turned pale, and they were unable to refute a word for a while. Yang Qiushi stood up and ordered them to leave. I also know that you are eyeing those shops in Shanghai and are afraid that I will take them back.
Don't worry about this.
Since you still have some bloodline of the Yang family, the 6 shops in Shanghai will still be managed by you and your wife, and you can pass them on to your children and grandchildren in the future. But you don't have to worry about the others. You don't have a penny left. I've said that you can do as you please. After saying that, he put his hands behind his back and walked away without even looking at the 2 people. Yang Wenyuan was anxious and chased after him, shouting, Uncle, don't be fooled by these 2 people. Aren't they just pretending to be nice to you because you have money? Once they have cheated all the money of our Yang family, they will not care about you.
Uncle,
I am your nephew after all. Yang Qiushi was furious when he heard this. He had been polite enough, but this rascal was really shameless. Yang Qiushi turned around and said coldly, Why did your father give birth to such a shameless rascal like you? Get out of here. If you don't get out, I will take back those shops in Shanghai for you. Yang Wenyuan saw that he hadn't gotten anything else yet, and the ones in Shanghai were also going to be taken back. How could he dare to make trouble again? He ran away in disgrace. However, before leaving, the couple still glared at Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan. After leaving the courtyard, Yang Wenyuan's wife said unconvincedly, Are we just going to let it go? Look at such a big house. I think it has 3 entrances. It's worth at least tens of thousands of dollars. It was probably bought with your uncle's money. Are we really going to let outsiders occupy it? Yang Wenyuan's face turned pale, and he said with a paw, You wish. Just wait and see. The old man probably won't live for many years. We'll come over after he dies. No matter what, this medicine shop is the property of the Yang family. I don't believe it. If the old man dares to give the ancestral property of the Yang family to outsiders, he will have the nerve to face our ancestors when he dies. By then, we will definitely take back everything, including the courtyard. As they talked, they went back to Shanghai angrily. Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan sent Yang Qiushi back to his room. Shen Wanxue and Rong Zhenbang also came over to persuade him not to take it to heart. Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan went back to their room, and Li Zhan said, "I think these two people will not give up, and they will definitely come again." Xia Huanhuan teased Zhao Jiao and said with a smile, "Let them come, we will just deal with it as it comes, and have a clear conscience." Li Zhan nodded and smiled. That's right. The days of the new year are always lively and festive. The year before, the Fu family had two new babies, Fu Nanjing's daughter and Jiao Jiao. Therefore, the reunion dinner at the Fu family on the second day of the new year was even more lively. Grandpa Fu and Fu Weixin were very pleased to see the four generations of the family reunited. On the third day of the new year, they went to Li Jie's house, Fu Nanjing's house, and Qi Jian's house to pay New Year's greetings. Fu Nanjing, Li Jie, and Dahai's family also returned the gifts. On the fourth day of the new year, they went back to the county town to give gifts to Li Zhan's eldest sister Li Zhaoti's family, and Xia Huanhuan said she wanted to go back to Qingshui village. When they were in Qingshui village before, Secretary Zhao took good care of their family. Now Secretary Zhao is getting older, so Xia Huanhuan wanted to go and pay New Year's greetings and see him. Li Zhan naturally agreed. Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru had not been back to the village for a long time, so they went back together. The two of them took Jiao Jiao, Xia Shuangshan, and Lin Yiru, and took the train back to the county town without Xiaowen, Xiaowu, Beibei, and the triplets. They first delivered the gifts to Li Zhaoti's home. Li Zhaoti and her husband are now helping Li Jie and Zhou Qiuhe to open a store, but Li Jie and Zhou Qiuhe later gave them 20% of the shares, which can be divided into dividends at the end of the year. Therefore, they have moved their family to the county town. Chen Yan returned home before the new year. When she saw Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan coming, she came out to greet them happily. Jiao Jiao also knew her, and when she saw her, she smiled and asked for a hug. Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan talked to Li Zhaoti for a long time, and after giving red envelopes to all the children, they returned to Qingshui village without eating. Secretary Zhao was so happy to see them back that he couldn't stop smiling. Secretary Zhao's hair is now completely white, and he has lost a lot of teeth. He looks very old, but he is still in good spirits. He has retired from the position of secretary. Now he goes to the village primary school every day to hang out and see the children in the village studying, or goes to the back mountain to see the medicinal herbs planted. The secretary is Xiaoping now. This kid has a conscience. After graduating from university, he couldn't let go of the village school, so he took the initiative to give up the assignment and returned to the village. He is also the principal of the school. It's just, his wife wanted to stay in the city, and the two quarreled a few times, and then his wife divorced him. Alas, Xiaoping is a child who has made too much sacrifice. After hearing this, Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan were impressed. Apart from anything else, Xia Huanhuan just couldn't do it, as he finally got into college, but returned to the village to become a private teacher. This was a spirit of selfless dedication. Xia Huanhuan said, "Secretary Zhao, Li Zhan, and I have made some money doing business in Beijing. I will give some money to renovate our school and buy some new books and so on." Secretary Zhao waved his hand and said, "It's not easy for you to make money. Besides, Lao Yang's pharmacy now buys all the medicinal materials grown in the village every year, and the villagers are much richer."
Don't worry about it.
Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Secretary Zhao, I'm not worrying about it. After all, it's a good way out for the children in our village to go to school and get into college.
Just let me do my best."
After hearing this, Secretary Zhao smiled and said, "If you say so, then I won't refuse on my own initiative. You and Li Zhan are great." While they were talking, Secretary Zhao's two grandsons Chaoyang and Qiming came in. Chaoyang was 16 years old, and Qiming was 15 years old. When they saw Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan, they greeted them politely, "Uncle Li, Aunt Huanhuan." Secretary Zhao said proudly. These two guys are really doing well. Chaoyang has just submitted his application for enlistment, and Qiming is good at his studies and plans to go to college next year. Qiming, you should work harder and try to be like your Aunt Huan Huan and get into Peking University. Qiming smiled a little embarrassedly and said anxiously, Grandpa, what are you talking about? It's not that easy to get into Peking University. Everyone laughed. Li Zhan asked Chaoyang, what branch of the military did you apply for? Chaoyang said, I wanted to apply for the Air Force, but I was afraid of the strict requirements, so I applied for the Army. Anyway, as long as I can be a soldier and carry a gun to defend my country, I would be happy even if I have to be a cook. Li Zhan nodded and smiled. Do a good job. As long as you have good physical fitness and strong will, the Army welcomes you young people. Chaoyang felt embarrassed. After talking for a while, Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan came out of Secretary Zhao's house with Jiao Jiao in their arms and went to Aunt Wu's house and other families in the village to pay New Year's greetings and chat. They stayed in the house in Qingshui village that night and returned to the county town early the next morning. A few days later, Xia Huanhuan took out all the agricultural machinery that had been stored in the space before and asked Li Jie and Wu Feng to drive them back to Qingshui village. With these seeding machines, threshers, and the like, farm work in the village can be much easier. In addition, she also funded the construction of a small library at the school, bought various encyclopedia books, new desks and chairs, and the like. Li Zhan also paid attention to Chaoyang's military service. Chaoyang submitted the application in Hebei Province, but Hebei Province and Beijing City are both under the jurisdiction of the North China Military Region, so it is the same thing. It is said that Chaoyang has passed the strict physical examination and physical training, as well as the political. After the interrogation, Li Zhan was quite happy. This should be a sure thing. When the recruitment was coming to an end, he went to ask again, wanting to know where this kid was assigned to. As a result, you don't know until you ask. Once asked, Li Zhan was almost mad to death. Chaoyang was eliminated in the end. It turned out that the son of a small leader in the county recruitment office replaced Chaoyang's qualifications. Li Zhan naturally couldn't sit idly by, so he asked someone to investigate the matter and finally restored Chaoyang's enlistment qualifications. However, Li Zhan did not interfere too much in the assigned troops, and this kid was later assigned to Shandong Province. Spring in the north is always short. It was still chilly yesterday, with peach blossom snow falling, but it suddenly became warm. In April and May, Xia Huanhuan used the space to go to Yangjie village in Zhejiang Province. In the past few years, Xia Huanhuan has been raising river clams and pearls in the castle fish pond in the village. Now, the first batch of clams has been there for 4 years, and she plans to go there to collect clams. Zhejiang Province is close to the coast and has developed well in recent years. New houses have been built in Yangjie village, presenting a brand new landscape. Secretary Yang warmly received Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan only wanted pearls, so she went straight to she commissioned villagers to open clams and take pearls. The remaining shells and meat were discarded. She had already opened some clams last year, and the village started duck farming with the unwanted meat, which is now a popular business. Not only that, many other villages also followed suit and started raising river clams to produce pearls, but they didn't have any way to sell them, so they found Xia Huanhuan and asked her to buy them all. Xia Huanhuan didn't refuse, but she only accepted pearls of good quality. She and Secretary Yang have already discussed the breeding farm in Yangjie village. Some villagers in the village have discussed and decided to start a township enterprise. The villagers hold 40% of the shares and are responsible for breeding and opening clams, while Xia Huanhuan holds 60% of the shares and is responsible for recycling and sales. The villagers can receive a lot of dividends every year, so how can they not work hard? Of course, some people are jealous of Xia Huanhuan and clamor to divide it out to do their own work. After working for less than 2 years, they regret it and return home in disgrace. Xia Huanhuan collected the pearls and still went to Guangzhou from time to sell them to Smith. She also developed several other luxury goods companies, so there is no problem with sales. However, She also knew that selling raw materials alone was too extensive, and further processing and development would bring greater profits. In the second half of the year, Xia Huanhuan opened a jewelry design company in Shenzhen, specializing in pearl jewelry, and the products were directly targeted at the wealthy wives and upper-class people in the opposite Hong Kong city. Winter soon came again, and heavy snow fell in Beijing. Xia Huanhuan enrolled in spring, so her graduation time was different from that of future college students. She also graduated in spring, not summer. Therefore, in the winter, everyone began to make plans to inquire about where they would be assigned after graduation. Students of Peking University are actually not that bad. After all, it is the highest institution of learning in the country, so the assignment is generally not that bad. But there is still a certain chance of being assigned to other provinces, and many of the students who have just resumed the college entrance examination have families, and everyone's mentality is different. Therefore, in the past few months, the department office can be said to be constantly busy. Chen Lu wanted to go back to Guangzhou, so he was a little worried about the assignment. Xia Huanhuan was determined not to be assigned. After graduation, she would concentrate on developing her business. Assigning a unit to her would simply be a drag. Seeing Chen Lu so worried, she smiled and said, "Don't panic. There are also many people in Guangshi who have quit their iron rice bowls and become self-employed, right? If you are assigned to the Northwest or somewhere else, you can either give up the assignment and become a self-employed person, right?" Chen Lu couldn't help laughing after hearing this. That's true. Even if you are a good Peking University student, you don't want the assigned job and insist on being a self-employed person. Others will laugh at you. Xia Huanhuan also knew that Chen Lu was thin-skinned, and it was normal for him to care about other people's opinions, so she smiled and said, "Anyway, we will work out when the time comes. If you are willing, we can cooperate and do business in Guangshi. It will definitely make more money than the assigned job." Chen Lu looked at Xia Huanhuan and asked, "Huanhuan, are you really not going to accept the assignment?" Xia Huanhuan nodded and said, "Yes. I have already talked to the department. If there are vacancies, they will be allocated to other people, so that I don't waste them." When the teacher in charge of graduation assignments in the department heard Xia Huanhuan say that she didn't want an assignment, his jaw dropped in shock. The quality of college students in that era was different from that after the expansion of enrollment in later generations. They were truly rare. As soon as they graduated, they were cadres, and no matter what unit they were assigned to, they would be popular and have many opportunities for promotion in the future. Xia Huanhuan's grades were still the best in the department, so how could she just not want an assignment? The teacher in the department was newly assigned not long ago and was quite responsible. He advised seriously, "Student Xia Huanhuan, the school also knows that you just gave birth to a daughter last year. Your family now has 3 sons and 1 daughter. I heard that you have 3 adopted children? Your family may be burdened with heavy responsibilities and busy with things. However, as female comrades of the new era, the country has spent so much effort and resources to train you to become a college student. If you go back to be a housewife, it would be a waste of talent.
You should think about it.
The department will reserve your place first." Xia Huanhuan was amused and shook her head quickly after hearing this, and said, "Teacher, you misunderstood. I don't want the assignment, not because I plan to go back to be a housewife. I want to be a self-employed person." The teacher was stunned after hearing this. Self-employed person? Giving up the good assignment and becoming a self-employed person? Setting up a stall on the roadside? How much better than being a housewife? Xia Huanhuan continued, "Teacher, I have also visited Guangzhou in the south and Shanghai in the east in recent years. I think that our country's business will definitely develop more and more in the future. Therefore, contributing to the country is not just obeying the assignment. I am studying economics, and using my knowledge and ability to contribute to the development of the country's business is also a way of contribution." After Xia Huanhuan left, the teacher still didn't understand, so he reported the matter to the higher-ups. The dean of the department smiled and said, "Xiao Wang, you have just been here for a short time, so you may not know Xia Huanhuan's situation. She is the owner of Yuanxiangju, and she is well known in the district and even in the city. She also runs a clothing store. She wants to be a self-employed person, not a small stall. You don't have to worry about it." Just give her assigned quota to someone else. After hearing this, Teacher Xiao Wang couldn't help but widen his eyes and stuttered. That Yuanxiangju is. Is it opened by Xia Huanhuan? The last semester of college finally ended. Xia Huanhuan came out of school, and Li Zhan was waiting for her at the door. Xia Huanhuan walked over and said with a smile, "Why are you here? Don't you need to train?" Li Zhan said with a smile, "You officially graduated today. How could I not come for such an important event?" Xia Huanhuan tilted her head and smiled. "You are thoughtful. Then let us go celebrate today?" Li Zhan nodded and said, "What do you want to eat? I'll treat you." Xia Huanhuan pursed her lips and smiled. Is this a date for them? Speaking of which, she and Li Zhan have not really spent much time together for these years, so she couldn't help but smile and tease. "You are treating us, but you are spending our family's money, right? However, it's rare that you have come to your senses and know romance well. Let's go eat mutton hot pot." As the two talked, they went to Donglishan. There were plates of fresh chopped mutton, and the bottom of the pot was just water, with only onion segments, wolfberries, mushrooms, slices, and other ingredients. It was mutton in clear soup, and it tasted original. The key point was the sesame sauce with a little bit of fermented bean curd. The mutton was covered with a lot of sesame sauce and put into the mouth. The satisfaction of the salty and fragrant explosion was incomparable. Of course, Xia Huanhuan liked both the garlic oil dish in the south and the sesame sauce dish in the north. Seeing Xia Huanhuan eating with a happy face, Li Zhan couldn't help but smile dotingly. "Is it so delicious? Look how happy you are." Xia Huanhuan nodded seriously. "Of course it's delicious. Eating is the happiest thing in the world." Li Zhan shook his head and smiled, saying, "If you like to eat, we can come here every now and then, and we don't lack the money." "That's the truth." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Okay, that's what you said. You'll have to use your pocket money when the time comes." Li Zhan glanced at her unhappily. "Where do I have any pocket money?" Xia Huanhuan picked up a piece of mutton and stuffed it into Li Zhan's mouth and smiled. "I know you don't have any. I was just kidding. But I'm thinking about opening a hot pot restaurant in Beijing in the future. However, I won't use the sesame sauce, but the spicy flavor from Sichuan province in the south. What do you think?" In the 1980s, although Sichuan cuisine was already very famous throughout the country, hot pot, which did not require a chef but relied entirely on ingredients and self-service, had not yet become popular. Therefore, there was no Sichuan hot pot in Beijing. Li Zhan traveled a lot and had eaten Sichuan hot pot several times. He was originally from the north, so he could accept the spicy flavor. He nodded and smiled. "If you want to open it, open it. We have a strong taste here, so we should be able to eat spicy food." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Yeah. In the future, there will definitely be more and more people from other places coming to Beijing, and the food will become more diversified." Li Zhan smiled and said, "I believe in my wife's business acumen." After they ate hot pot, Li Zhan took her back on a bicycle. When they got home, the triplets refused to listen to them that they were going to eat hot pot without them, and they insisted on going to eat too. Seeing that they had finished their exams and were on winter vacation, Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "In a few days, let's go out for a meal as a family. Is that okay?" The triplets finally agreed. A few days later, Xia Huanhuan brought her family and also invited Grandpa Fu and Fu Weixin to book a private room on the second floor of Donglishan, where they had a hot pot meal together. Chen Lu went along as he was waiting to get his diploma and registration card. Chen Lu was eventually assigned back to Guangzhou, which was his wish come true. Yan Haotian had already sent a telegram saying that the wedding would be held as soon as Chen Lu returned. Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru were both happy and nervous. After all, Chen Lu's family was from Guangzhou, and both of their parents had urban hukou. Compared with the Chen family, although they now moved to Beijing with their daughter and son-in-law, they were still rural hukou after all, and they were afraid that the Chen family would still look down on Yan Haotian. Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru thought about it, and then took the money they had saved over the years and went to discuss with Xia Huanhuan, meaning to see how they could prepare. In the early 1980s, what men and women wanted when they got married was the so-called 3 turns and 2 rings. The 3 turns were a big watch, a bicycle and a sewing machine, and the 2 rings were a tape recorder and a wall clock. As for the new 3 pieces of color TVs, refrigerators, and washing machines that became popular later, they were still 10 years in the future, or even longer. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Dad, Mom, don't worry. My brother and I have discussed it privately. Bicycles, sewing machines, and the like are definitely there, and they all need to be prepared. Besides, we have an electrical appliance store at home, and we can get cheap goods from Guangshi, so I have reserved the 3 items, the color TV, refrigerator, and washing machine for my brother. You can go there when the time comes, and you will definitely not embarrass yourself." Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru couldn't help feeling relieved and guilty after hearing this. "Oh, Waner, fortunately you are here. Otherwise, the 2 of us really don't know what to do." Xia Huanhuan said, "Don't worry. My brother has a plan in mind. He bought a newly built house in Guangshi last year and renovated it as a wedding house. You will be able to see it when you go there. Their house was built by a professional developer in Gangshi, and the rooms have kitchens and toilets, which is more convenient than our courtyard houses." The commercial housing in Guangshi that Xia Huanhuan mentioned was the Donghu New Village that was built at the end of 1979 and was gradually put on the market in the second half of 1981. Yan Haotian was able to afford the house here with his savings over the years and some inheritance from his adoptive parents. Xia Huanhuan also bought one before the Lunar New Year, so that Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru would have a place to stay when they came to Guangshi in the future, and it could also be rented out. Yan Haotian's wedding date was quickly set on the 15th day of the first lunar month. Xia Huanhuan, Li Zhan, Lin Yiru, and Xia Shuangshan, as relatives, were going to help Zhang Luo, therefore, took the children and set off for Guangshi after the 3rd day of the Chinese New Year. As soon as they arrived in Guangshi, Xia Huanhuan contacted Qin Rongxing and asked him to personally deliver the new imported refrigerator, washing machine, and color TV, all of which were placed in Yan Haotian's new house. Xiaowen, Xiaowu, Beibei, and the triplets helped cut the red double happiness and pasted the festive double happiness on the large items and brand new furniture in the house. The wall also hung a photo of Yan Haotian and Qin Lu taken in advance at the photo studio. Seeing this, Lin Yiru and Xia Shuangshan couldn't help but wipe their tears with joy. Think about their first half of life. What kind of life was that? But I didn't expect that I could enjoy a peaceful life with my daughter and son in the second half of my life. The wedding was held at the Victory Hotel, where the wedding was booked before. Because it was held in Guangshi, most of the guests were relatives from the Qin family. From the Xia family, there were only Xia Huanhuan, Li Zhan, Xia Shuangshan, and Lin Yiru. The other Xia family members had long been cut off from each other, so it was naturally impossible to invite them to come. However, many of Yan Haotian's comrades and leaders came, so he was definitely not defeated in terms of momentum. After the wedding, everyone started to make a fuss and wanted to go to the bride and groom's house to make a fuss. Yan Haotian also agreed generously. A row of jeeps on the road carried relatives there, which can be said to be quite face-saving. Chen Lu's parents were very proud in front of Chen's relatives. Chen Lu's father smiled softly. "Look at you. You despised Haotian back then. If it weren't for Haotian, could your daughter have married so gloriously?" Chen Lu's mother felt a little guilty and said, "I despised? Have you never despised him? It's Lulu's fault too." She couldn't explain herself clearly. How would I know that Haotian was the leader? Besides, didn't I agree to it later? We soon arrived at the residential area of Donghu New Village. Everyone lived in old public housing or houses allocated by the company. How could they have seen such a well-managed community with water, electricity, toilets, and flush toilets in the rooms? They couldn't help but envy them, especially when they saw the brand new refrigerator, television, and washing machine in the room. Their eyes widened, and they all envied Chen Lu's parents for being so lucky to have such a good son-in-law. Chen Lu's parents didn't expect Yan Haotian to be able to afford these large appliances. You know, the dowry they gave Chen Lu was just a sewing machine, a bicycle, and other things worth 200 or 300 yuan, which probably couldn't even buy a color TV together. Everyone talked and laughed with envy, and then dispersed, leaving the young couple to spend their wedding night. Chen Lu waited until everyone had left. Her face was still flushed, and she felt that this day was like a dream. When she was in a trance, she suddenly felt dizzy and was picked up by Yan Haotian.
Ah, you.
You put me down quickly. Chen Lu blushed and quickly hugged Yan Haotian's neck for fear of falling. How could Yan Haotian let go? He smiled and said, "No. You are my wife now. I can hug you whenever I want. I've been holding it back for several years. Don't even think about running away tonight. Huan Huan and Li Zhan have given birth to 4 children. If we don't work harder, we won't be able to catch up." As he said that, he had already carried her to the inner room and threw her on the bright red bed. He had already covered her and stripped off her clothes. Here, Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan coaxed Jiao Jiao to sleep, and they were also affectionate for a long time. After they were done, the two of them snuggled up with some breathlessness. Xia Huanhuan suddenly smiled and said, "Let us go to the beach tomorrow? I haven't been to the beach for a long time. Let Xiaowen and the others take care of Jiao Jiao, just the two of us." Li Zhan listened and smiled dotingly. "Okay, I'll listen to you." Xia Huanhuan suddenly leaned close to his ear and smiled. "Then wait, I'll give you a surprise tomorrow." Li Zhan saw her wet eyes and couldn't help feeling itchy. He turned over and hugged her, asking, "What surprise? Why make it so mysterious?" Xia Huanhuan pushed him away and said, "If I tell you, it won't be a surprise." Li Zhan became playful and pinched the flesh on her lower back. He laughed in a hoarse voice. "If you don't tell me, I'll force you to confess." Xia Huanhuan let out an ah and her body gurgled as if it was a conditioned reflex, but was immediately pulled back by Li Zhan. She looked at Li Zhan, holding back her laughter and acting along with him. "I won't confess. I won't confess even if you kill me." Li Zhan held her chin, kissed her forcefully and domineeringly, and chuckled. "You asked for it." Early the next morning, Xia Huanhuan had a sore back and waist and didn't want to get up. However, Li Zhan was still thinking about the surprise, and he pulled her up with all his might. Xia Huanhuan drove Li Zhan out of the room, changed her clothes, and then they set out for the beach. Although the winter in the south is much warmer than that in the north, when Xia Huanhuan arrived at the beach, she faced the cold wind blowing from the ocean, shrugged her shoulders, and shivered with cold. She couldn't help but scold herself in her heart for having no common sense. After standing for a while, she immediately turned around and left, saying, let's go back.
Today
Is not a good day." Li Zhan was stunned for a moment. He just came here. Why did he go back? Didn't he want to see the scenery? Suddenly, he remembered that there was a surprise that he hadn't told him. "Why are you going back? Where's the surprise? What is it?" Li Zhan couldn't help but ask. Xia Huanhuan blushed and said vaguely, "Now is not the time. Wait until summer."
Li Zhan's mot wisha.
A surprise and have to wait until summer?
This.
Have to wait so long? Xia Huanhuan also felt that she was a bit too much, so she bit her lip, looked around to see that there was no one, and said, "I'll show you. But you're not allowed to laugh at me." Then she unbuttoned her coat and showed it to Li Zhan. Li Zhan was stunned for a moment, then hurried over, hugged her in his arms, and pulled her clothes up for her. He coughed twice embarrassedly and then asked in a hoarse voice, "This is?" Xia Huanhuan's face also turned red, and she laughed softly in his ear. "Have you forgotten that I mentioned to you once when we were on the island? This is called a bikini. It is worn when swimming in the summer. I thought there would be no one on the beach in winter, but it turned out to be so cold." Li Zhan couldn't help but feel angry and amused, and leaned close to her ear and said, "This kind of clothes can only be worn at home for me to see. I don't want other men and women to see it." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "It's not the right environment to wear it at home. Oh, if there was an empty beach in the summer." As she was talking, Xia Huanhuan suddenly found that the surrounding environment had changed. The originally gloomy sky was blue, the sun was shining, and there was a fine white beach under her feet. The blue sea in the distance rolled over layer by layer, making a sound of waves. Xia Huanhuan looked around in amazement, and then she realized that this was not her space. Where else could this be? Looking again, Li Zhan was still holding her, and he actually entered the space with her. Xia Huanhuan. In the past, She couldn't take Li Zhan into the space no matter what, and only succeeded a few times when she was at the critical moment of life and death.
Today.
What's wrong with the space? Li Zhan was also a little confused. He looked around and saw beautiful mountains and rivers, and the wind was sunny. It was clearly a good summer day. Even the sweater he was wearing felt hot. Li Zhan hesitated and said, "Huan Huan." Xia Huan Huan closed her eyes and pulled Li Zhan, while touching the birthmark on her wrist with her hand. Suddenly, the two returned to the beach, where the cold wind was just blowing. Xia Huan Huan saw that there was no one on the beach, so she pulled Li Zhan into the space again. This time it was still successful. Xia Huan Huan and Li Zhan looked at each other.
Li Zhan asked tentatively, "Huan Huan, this
is your space, right?"
Xia Huan Huan nodded and said, "Yeah, I guess."
This space finally recognized you, so you can come in. This is the only explanation she could think of. Of course, it is also possible that in her deepest subconscious, she really trusts Li Zhan completely, so she let down the last bit of defense, right? Otherwise, when they encountered floods in the past, Li Zhan was kicked out of the space when he escaped from danger. There is no reason why she can take Li Zhan in and out freely now when there is no danger at all. Li Zhan looked at the summer beaches around him, and then he couldn't help but twitching his mouth and said, "Your space is a bit disgusting." Before he finished speaking, Li Zhan was kicked out of the space again.
Li Zhan.
Okay, you are not allowed to say bad things. Xia Huan Huan also came out later, smiled and said, "Who told you to talk nonsense? Let's go home." After returning home, Li Zhan still pestered Xia Huan Huan to enter the space, and then saw Xia Huan Huan wearing a bikini. Xia Huan Huan later made some attempts and found that Li Zhan could only go in when she wanted to take him in, and Li Zhan could not go in alone. Moreover, if he went in with her, Li Zhan could also use the teleportation of the space. This way, it would be much more convenient. If Xia Huan Huan went on a long journey through the space in the future, Li Zhan could go with her, so that she would not be unsafe alone. Moreover, the two of them would go into the space from time to get close to each other. At least no one could disturb them. In the summer of 1983, Xiaowen was admitted to Peking University, and Xiao also enlisted in the army and officially became a soldier. Beibei was in the first year of high school, and the triplets officially became junior high school students. Jiao Jiao was 3 years old and started to run after her brothers. However, when her brothers went to school, she was still spoiled by her grandparents, Grandpa Yang, and her great-grandparents. Chun Lu got pregnant soon after she got married and gave birth to a son that year. Now she is pregnant with her second child. Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru went to Guangzhou to help take care of the children. In Beijing, the district made connections, and she and foreign businessmen set up a travel company and a multinational 5-star hotel. In addition, the hot pot restaurant mentioned to Li Zhan before was also opened and even developed into a chain store. Xia Huan Huan opened a foreign trade company in Shenzhen, specializing in foreign trade business with Hong Kong businessmen and foreign customers. In addition, she also opened her own clothing factory in Guangzhou. On the one hand, she developed her own brand by independent design, and on the other hand, she also did OEM for foreign customers, which soon became a large-scale place. Her own clothing brand and jewelry brand also developed very smoothly, and they have gained considerable popularity in Hong Kong and even abroad. Pearl jewelry can only be obtained by customization several months in advance. However, Xia Huan Huan is not doing everything herself now. She asked many old classmates from Beijing University to help, including Chen Lu and Han Rui, who liked her in the English department before, and they all became senior executives of the foreign trade company. Yu Siju later resigned from the hospital and came to help manage the business of Yang's pharmacy. Li Jie and Wu Feng also became the general manager and deputy general manager of the transportation and logistics company respectively, and the number of vehicles in the fleet increased to 10. Of course, the two of them were not only workers, but also shareholders, with a good share of dividends every year. Li Jie and Zhou Qiuhe also bought a courtyard house in Beijing, fulfilling their dream of settling down in Beijing. Their daughter Yingying was admitted to Beijing University together with Xiaowen, and the younger ones were also very serious and outstanding in their studies. Li Jie and Zhou Qiuhe were also glad that Li Zhan was promoted to deputy army commander. After the awarding ceremony, Xia Huanhuan looked at Li Zhan, who was still heroic in his dark green military uniform, and was moved. Although she cried a lot after crossing over, being able to meet Li Zhan in this world and grow old with him was the best thing that happened to her in her life. Li Zhan came over and said with a smile, "Are you waiting impatiently?" Xia Huanhuan suddenly stood on tiptoe, kissed him on the face, and said softly and solemnly, "Li Zhan, I love you. What's wrong with you out of the blue?" Li Zhan wanted to laugh at her sudden corniness, but when he was halfway through his words, he saw the tears in her eyes and couldn't help but raise his hand to wipe them for her, and said with a smile, "What's wrong with you all of a sudden? Your man was just promoted to deputy commander. In the future, he will be commander and commander. There's no need to be so excited." Xia Huanhuan was so angry that she punched him. She also knew that saying "I love you" was too out of place in this era. She finally mustered up the courage to say it, but in the end, the atmosphere was completely ruined by him. Li Zhan took the opportunity to grab her hand, hugged her in his arms, laughed, and whispered in her ear, "Wife, I love you too." The end some follow-up that was not explained. When Xia Huanhuan went to Gangshi and Guangshi again, she occasionally met Fu Qingye a few times. It seemed that he was hooking up with some nouveau riche. Her daughter was taken back to the village by her grandmother and raised for a few years. When she couldn't support her any longer, she came to the Fu family for help. The Fu family also helped her many times. Apart from not having the love of her parents, the child's life was not too hard. However, Fu Weixin was afraid that the situation of adopting Fu Qingye would happen again. Therefore, he only helped secretly and did not let the child know. Later, the child grew up, was admitted to university, and later got married. At that time, Fu Qingye, who was old and ugly and dumped by a nouveau riche, came back and tried to get her daughter to recognize her and take care of her in her old age. However, after her daughter learned about her life experience, she sneered at Fu Qingye and refused to recognize her no matter what she said. Fu Qingye regretted her decision at this time, but unfortunately, there was nothing she could do. Later, the street office took pity on her and sent her to a nursing home to live out her remaining life. In the early 1990s, Yang Qiushi came to the end of his life. His nephew Yang Wenyuan came to make trouble and even found a lawyer team to sue Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan. However, Yang Qiushi had already prepared a will and passed all the Yang family's inheritance to Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan promised to keep the name of Yang's pharmacy. Yang Wenyuan eventually lost the case, and after investigation, it was found that his several drugstores in Shanghai were on the verge of bankruptcy. Xia Huanhuan invested in buying these drugstores, reorganized and reopened them, and merged them into Yang's pharmacy, which restored the integrity of Yang's pharmacy. Bai Zihan has also been in the army as Li Zhan's deputy, and the Bai family and the Rong family have always maintained this close relationship. Many of Li Zhan's soldiers later retired, and Xia Huanhuan arranged for them to work in various companies.